And a very warm welcome along wherever you are in the world to our coverage of the Boat Race 2025, the annual iconic fixture on the championship course here on the River Thames. You can see before you between Cambridge University and Oxford University. Coming up, the women's race in just under 20 minutes time now, followed by the men's race at 2:21 local time here in the UK. So an hour after the women's race. You can see the crowds already building up nicely on this balmy day in West London along the banks of the River Thames. I'm Katie Smith, and alongside me to guide you through this brilliant few hours of action we have to come, the 2023 boat race winner with Cambridge, Rosa Millard. Afternoon, Rosa.
Hi Katie, great to be here. Looks like a great day. I'm excited.
How much on race day does it bring back your memories of going through all of this?
Oh, it really brings it back. Even in those title sequences, seeing them rowing down the course, clashing, celebrating at the end, my heart rate was raising. I'm excited.
Do you get more nervous watching, I suppose, actually still teammates for you? You know pretty much all of these girls racing for Cambridge today, you know some of the Oxford crews as well. Is it more nervous watching them than competing yourself?
I think so, yeah. I think the alumni base, especially at Oxford and Cambridge, care more about the race than the athletes themselves. I think because looking back at it, it's so nostalgic. You love the athletes, you love the club. It's a really nerve-wracking day for everyone involved.
So the course is notorious for its ever-changing conditions. We'll get a nice shot of some of the wildlife that we see out on the Thames every day. Famous landmarks as well, twisting bends. So let's take a closer look at the championship course that the crews will be rowing today. Andrew Cotter will guide you through.
It is just over 4 miles of the twisting Thames between Putney and Mortlake, racing upstream, but with the flow of the incoming tide. The crews choose either the south bank, the Surrey station, or the north, which is Middlesex. The initial slight advantage is to Middlesex around Fulham's Craven Cottage. After 3.5 to 4 minutes, the mile marker is reached and the landmark of the former Harrods Furniture Depository before Hammersmith Bridge. The majority of crews leading here go on to win, and now the bend favours the Surrey side. A large sweeping turn past halfway into the straight of Chiswick Reach and past the island Chiswick 8. Quite often into a headwind, this can be exposed and rougher water. A final slight bend to Surrey, and then it turns back to favour the north bank, under Barnes Bridge, into the final 1,000 metres and towards the finish just before Chiswick Bridge.
So a little look at the course there, 6.8 kilometres long, Rosa, and that's one of the key distinctions here with the boat race compared to most other rowing that we see competitively, is that sheer length of the course, but so many challenges to deal with on water like this, tidal water. Yeah,
I mean, in the boat race world, we say that the water itself is the third competitor. When there's wind against tide, that can be incredibly challenging because there's loads of waves, there's white water. So yeah, considering the river's nature is very, very crucial in this race.
And so we've been keeping our eye on the conditions, of course, throughout the morning. Now, the weather looks really lovely. That's the first thing to say. Sun is out, which always helps for a nice day of rowing, I guess, for the competitors. In terms of the conditions, we've got some southwesterly winds coming in, so perhaps a little bit of wind against tide, which might mean that there are areas along this course where we'll see that choppier water.
So you saw on the map just there, Andrew Cotter said, along the Aya into Barnes Bridge, there's often a headwind. That is the case today. You'll see wind against tide in that stretch, which will chop up the water, see some waves, and that will be quite distinguishing for the crews. The crews that handle that better will be the ones that end up on top, I think.
And it's also where the coxes can come in and be completely invaluable to the whole proceeding. So in the women's race, we've got Jack Nicholas in the coxing seat for Cambridge up against Dan Orton for the Oxford crew. And the key thing I'm pulling out here is that Dan Orton has grown up on the Tideway, on this bit of river, rowing for Latimer Upper School, which they will pass during the race. So how much of an advantage can that bring?
So Dan Orton, yeah, as you just said, he's the youngest competitor in this race, but he learnt to row on this water and he'll know it incredibly well. Having said that, Jack only learnt to cox a couple of years ago, so his rate of learning has been incredibly quick. So I think that, despite him being so new to coxing, he'll only know the Tideway. He'll only know this race, so he'll have been trained exclusively for this race. So I think that he'll have had a good knowledge, and to be honest, I think the coxes in this year's women's boat race are much less experienced than the rowers, so that could lead to some very interesting decisions in the race.
Yes, and that's something that a lot of people really tune in for, is those battles between the boats as they come together. So that one starts on the Surrey station, one starts on the Middlesex station, but ultimately they may start clashing together, and that's where big decisions come in from the coxes.
As a spectator, you absolutely want the drama, you want clashing, you want crabs, but let me tell you, that is the last thing the rowers want. Each of the individuals in this boat will want to get up, get away, and just have a clean race where they can really just enjoy the moment, because it's such a privilege and it's so exciting. So to be able to enjoy the moment without all this clashing and threat of crabbing, that would be nice.
So we're going to see the crews coming out in just a moment. That took place about 20 minutes ago, but we're going to get eyes on the crews boating and when they arrived on the Putney embankment earlier. But we're going to zoom in on the crews now, the rowers themselves, and take a closer look at two of the athletes competing in the women's boat race this afternoon, and two Olympians to boot. So Claire Collins, who sits in the 6th seat of the Cambridge 8 today, and Heidi Long, Olympic bronze medalist in the British 8 in Paris last summer. And their stories have been pretty intertwined from the start.
Heidi Long is my exact same age. We were born on the exact same day, November 29th, 1996. And we have, in a really cool way, ended up living these parallel rowing journeys.
Me and Claire first raced each other at the Junior World Championships in 2014. I was racing for Great Britain and she was racing for the United States. And since then, we've raced each other at under 23s, the Senior World Championships, the Olympics. We both went to university in the States, and we raced each other at the NCAAs. And currently, we're going to sit in the stroke seat against each other at the boat race, and you couldn't write it.
We've both gotten to incredibly successful moments through it. We've had failures and difficulties as well. But to see that and know that we, have lived on the earth for the exact amount of time and probably share similar characteristics in the way that we approach rowing and the way that we approach school is pretty crazy and pretty unique. So it's been real privilege and really fun to have raced each other for 10 years now.
I think it's an awesome story from the sense that she's like my doppelganger. She's done exactly the same thing as me for the last, I don't even know, 13 years or something. I think that's really unique. So I'd like to spend some more time with her after the boat race and just see how she's found the whole experience as well.
It's really neat to share a birthday, especially with someone that has lived a very similar life as you, but in a totally different part of the world. So in a small way, there's a bit of a kindred spirit in a way that you relate to someone that has had so many similar pathways.
She's a great person, a great athlete. I have a lot of respect for her. So coming up against her again, it's another opportunity that we've both been given to go out and race hard. And maybe one day we'll find a way to race in the same boat rather than against each other, but I don't know how that's going to happen.
Heidi Long and Claire Collins looked sort of friends on that video, didn't they, Rosa?
They did.
But there'll be fierce competitors coming up in just a few minutes' time, and that's our first look at the Oxford crew there, just finishing their final warm-ups. These are tense moments, aren't they? The last bits of preparation.
Yeah, they'll be very nervous right now, but to be honest, they'll have done this exact warm-up, this exact practice, this exact maneuver every day for the last 2 weeks. So for them, this will just feel like a regular training session at this moment. I think it's only once you're under the bridge, aligning in the stake boats, that you realise that this is really happening now. This is no longer a practice.
And I think we've got some shots actually of them arriving earlier, because this is all part of the race day moments, isn't it, Rosa? The preparing yourself, here we go, the crews coming out of their mini buses, and there's always people here. That's the magical thing about boat race day, is the support you get.
Yeah, it's almost like the theatre of it all, arriving, performing. You see Kyra Edwards absolutely hyping up the crowd. She's just, I mean, she radiates positivity. I think she's been an excellent addition to the Oxford University Boat Club this year, and yeah.
And there's some real top talent, that's the thing. People like Cara Del Rey, like Heidi Long, who, Heidi Long has the Olympic credentials now, but Kyra, we see it with Tash Morris in the Cambridge women as well. Those GB pedigrees, training in and amongst superstar athletes, the regimes that they are training in and amongst every day. And someone like Cara Del Rey as well, having come back from hip surgery. It just shows these journeys they go on. We're going to see the Cambridge crews arriving now as well.
Here we go. You've got sort of boat race royalty like Gemma King, probably the most experienced athlete racing today. She's been at Cambridge since 2019, so she's well seasoned in the boat race practice. So boat race royalty alongside rowing royalty themselves. Sammy Morton, Olympic spare pair for Australia. Claire Collins, as we saw just now, loving the moment. Looks like she's really enjoying it and taking the day as such a privilege. She's enjoying the moment. She's not weighed down by it all. And yeah, it's really nice to see.
And post-Olympic year, this is something I was thinking about earlier, is it's great to see that the boat race still pulls in such huge international names. The allure of being part of such a historic event for women's sport as well. It's one of the most vastly watched women's sports events in the world. These big names want to come and compete.
Yeah, it's unreal when you think about it. You've got the likes of sort of Katie Hempson, Caris Earle, Jack Nicholas, learnt to row and Cox at Cambridge. Rowing in a boat alongside Claire, Tash, Sammy, all these huge names. I think it's a really good opportunity for all these different types of people in the rowing world to come together and race as a unit.
What about this moment here? Take us back to you doing this in 2023.
Absolutely unreal. Like, you actually cannot describe it. The wall of noise that hits you as soon as the bay doors open is really unlike anything else. And I think it's at this moment that you decide that you're going to enjoy the day. You see there Annie, Gemma high-fiving the crowds. They're taking it in. It's something to really enjoy, and it's not worth stressing about. Like, it would ruin your day if you were so worried about it that you couldn't even take it in and enjoy it. But there's sort of a transition now as they come onto the water. They'll be going into that race mode, and this will, as I said before, just be like any training practice.
What I also found so interesting, you were explaining this to me earlier in the day before we came on air. We look at that structure on the left-hand side of your screen there, on the stern of the boat, where the cock sits, the cameras that are being added to the boat. How does that affect your rowing? Because, 90% of the time you haven't got that there.
Yeah, so that will have been added to their boat in the last few days, and it is very heavy. It is very heavy, and it's quite difficult to maneuver, more in the boat bays and lifting up the boat than the actual rowing itself. When you're rowing, you're not really thinking about the cameras, you're thinking about winning. But there's a lot of equipment that gets added to the boats for race day. You can see there's a splash deck just on the left-hand side of your screen that will prevent any huge waves coming over the bow of the boat and soaking poor Katie Hempson in the bow seat. There are also pumps that are fitted throughout the boat to avoid a sinking like there was in the 2016 women's boat race. I don't think there's a possibility, well, there's always a possibility of a sinking. I don't think that it will be likely this year looking at the conditions, but you never know, they're very prepared.
And it has been complete and utter dominance for Cambridge over the last 7 years. They're going for 8 in a row in the women's boat race. We're about to see Oxford making their way towards the water as well. And it is pretty remarkable that, Rosa, you've been part of this dynasty as we watch Oxford come through. How can they disrupt the odds? How can they turn the tide today?
I think this is a really pivotal year for Oxford, to be honest. They're starting to gain that momentum. They've had a completely new change of coaching team. They've got Annie Anazakis, 2-time blue, very experienced rower. She knows the boat race as the women's president, and Tom McIntosh, Olympic gold medalist in Tokyo. Yeah, so they've got a really stellar team leading them now, so I think that it'll be really interesting to see how Oxford start to turn the tide and build that momentum into the next few years. Because let's not forget that before Cambridge had this winning streak, Oxford had a huge winning streak. So I think these things ebb and flow like the tide itself, and yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens today.
I like what you did there. See how many tidal references we can get in. But touching on the past experience, it's actually quite powerful, I imagine, as an emotion to be someone like Annie Anazakis, as you mentioned, who has been in a boat race before. That's the crucial thing, but has lost. And she's talked this year about it being personal now. We're not doing this for fun. We are doing this because it matters and we want to win.
Yeah, she's incredibly motivated, and I hear that the team really love her. Like, I think she's been a very good addition for the team, and as president, she's done nothing but good things. It seems like they have a great culture. They really like each other. Whenever I see them coming to the Thames, like coming to train on the Tideway, they're cheerful, they're laughing. They seem a real unit, which is something that's really nice to see. And I think Annie's probably been very pivotal in creating that.
Now, to me, it's interesting to try and read the emotions on their face. They look a little more serious and down and in the zone than Cambridge maybe were just taking off onto the water. But once you're out there, it's kind of like any other training session, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. What Dan and Jack will be saying will be almost scripted at this point. Their coxswain calls, the warm-up, they'll have done this in visualizations probably every day this week. They know what's coming, they know what's going to be said, and it's exactly like clockwork. So it's interesting to see their transition from the boating to the warm-up zone.
So these are live pictures now. Beautiful shot there of Putney Bridge and the start line of the boat race, the start of the 6.8 grueling kilometres of rowing to come, all the way through towards Mortlake just before Chiswick Bridge. If you know the area, it's an iconic piece of rowing history, isn't it? This stretch of water, and it's so hard to try and accomplish the perfect race.
It really is something special, and I think even with the start, so you see that they're attached to these stake boats. It's very challenging to get attached because you've got the stream pushing you one way, but you're going against it. So this is the first challenge of the race itself, and the coxers will, to be honest, probably have been most nervous for this moment because any delay is critical for the runnings of the day.
And just your final few thoughts then, Rosa, before we hand over to our commentary team about these moments right here, all the hours and months of training you have put in. You're sat on the start line. What's going through your head?
You're thinking, oh my goodness, this is happening. This is really happening. I think it really hits you when you sort of look to your left and your right and you see the massive, massive crowds. But then you also see your competitors and you think, oh, they're thinking the same as I am. And they just want to beat each other so much, and they'll be sort of getting locked in now. You can see how quickly the stream is moving. This is going to be a fast race this year. We saw records in the lightweight boat races yesterday, so it'll be really interesting to see if there are any records broken today. I mean, both of these crews are absolutely stellar, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, we're expecting around 250,000 people along the banks of the Thames. The sun will certainly help with that today. To get people out in the beer gardens all the way down the crew, and you just spotted something there in the
yeah, I don't know if you noticed, they're sort of like passing this handshake down the boat. That's a really big thing at Cambridge, and I'm sure loads of other clubs too. They're a real community. They're a big unit. They really like each other. So you see they're passing the fist bump down the boat. They're sort of locking in, saying I'm with you, and they'll know that each of the other athletes is pulling so hard and putting everything in.
And it was Oxford who won the toss, we should say, as well. So they got to pick which station they were on. They picked Surrey. Was that a surprising choice to you?
No. I think most people who win the toss pick Surrey because you get that huge sweeping bend around, like just before the Aya and through Hammersmith Bridge. However, I mean, I think both of the stations are equal. They'll just pick the one that they prefer and they think matches their race plan best.
So again, we get these views overhead from the helicopter. That noise as well is something that you don't get to experience until race day either, is it?
Yeah, it really catches you off guard. There's this sort of whirring with you constantly, and when it's not the helicopter, there are drones down the course. But yeah, all they're thinking about is the race. From the minute they say go, you kind of don't really hear anything else. You just hear the cocks.
Well, it's time to go. It's the Women's Boat Race 2025. Let's hand you over to our commentary team, Jess Eddy, Zoe de Toledo and Andrew Cotter.
But for all, through the cold and the endless wet of this winter, the hours and hours of living and training in the dark, and around all the studying, it is worth it on a sunny spring day. A look at the Oxford boat for you. Annie Anazakis, the president, who has said she will sell her soul for victory today, because it has been all light blue of late in the women's race. And can the dark blues of Oxford change that today? They do not start as the favourites. That honour certainly goes to this crew, because Cambridge, we saw Claire Collins, the American, but they really are stacked with talent. In quite a light bow pair there in Katie Hemster and Gemma King. But once you get into the real engine room, Sophia Hahn, hugely powerful. Claire Collins, all her international experience. Tash Morris as well, Sammy Morton at stroke. Jack Nicholas, on a big golfing day, is coxing the crew. And you can see there Jess and Zoe alongside, just the bows of the boats just splaying. There's the strength of the incoming stream.
You can really see the tide there. It's pouring in on this incoming tide. See how tricky it is for these coxers to hold steady.
Get ready, please.
You can see that both the arms went down. The coxes are ready, but then the arms go up again, because they're just looking to get the absolute perfect line to get going. And you can see that in the Oxford boat, Daniel Orton with his arm raised, and Matthew Pinson waits.
Tricky game, because you don't want to annoy the umpire right before you start, but you've got to make sure that you're going to get a clear run.
Attention. Go!
Attention, go is the very simple instruction that is the end of all the waiting and all the training, but just the start of 20 minutes or so of huge discomfort. But the starts are so important. You think of all the strokes that are made in this race, but the start really is so crucial. It's the building block for the rest of the race, and already you can see that Cambridge just seem to have taken a bit out of the Oxford boat.
Cambridge just shot out there. You can see straight away, left-hand side of your screen at the white boat. And they've jumped a couple of seats. Really quick start, Cambridge.
They looked much, much cleaner in those first few strokes, didn't they? Oxford just looked a little bit heavy in the water, and Cambridge just kind of flew out nice and smooth, nice and clean. Oxford really did look like they sort of dragged a little bit off those first few strokes, and now they're having to pick back up into the pace of it.
And there's the warning from Matthew Pinson, because you see the blades of Oxford, they're creeping across into, and they've been told with that outstretched white flag of Matthew Pinson to get back into their own water.
That is uncomfortable. You don't want to be in those crews, and you know you're about to clash, and the blades are just overlapping there.
Yeah, this is a dangerous place so early on as well in the race, when you're trying to establish your rhythm. You don't want to be causing this kind of problems.
Oh, and there we go, a crab is caught. And this is real trouble for Cambridge, but Oxford stopping the race. They're stopping the race for now.
Both crews stop line. Both crews stop line.
So the reason we're stopping is, and Matthew Pinson will explain to both crews there.
We reset that and see if it affects the outcome of the race, or do you think that's a straight DQ?
Oh my goodness, might be a straight DQ for Oxford here. Matthew Pinson's asking the question. So Sophia Hahn was knocked from her seat.
I'm going to restart, see what the outcome is.
A huge decision early on. You heard the warnings that Matthew Pinson was giving to Oxford coming across into Middlesex water.
Both crews. What do you think the margin was? Half a length, a third of a length? We're going to restart. It will be a third of a length advantage to Cambridge.
So they're going to restart. I see Jasper Parrish just behind Matthew Pinson there. Let's just have a quick word with Jasper Parrish. Jasper, how did you see that as a former Cox?
Well, that was a very, very aggressive move early on from the Oxford Cox, Daniel Orton. I thought he took on a lot of risk there, but it looks like the race is going to restart. Here we go.
Yeah, was a third of a length was the decision. Third of a length advantage to Cambridge. Look to get going again. So, well, drama early on.
Attention. Go!
And away they go again. And that was Daniel Orton in the Oxford coxing seat, really taking every risk. And immediately pushing across there again.
Straight away back over. He's got to be so careful here. He has already put himself in a really difficult position, and Matthew Pinsent was standing there saying, should we just disqualify him? He has really got to make sure now he stays out of the way. But Oxford had a much cleaner start that time.
That has got to be unnerving for both crews, really, but at the moment it looks like Oxford have come out fighting again.
Well, both crews fighting here for that channel, for that deeper water. The deep water is the fast water. It's a narrow, deep channel in the middle of this river here, but now you can see that Cambridge on the Middlesex station, the North Bank, they're creeping across into Oxford water, so they're being warned, but they have taken out half a length.
They are, and Oxford again going in towards, they're really, really close there. And this is Cambridge's bend. They have advantage here. It is worth around a quarter of a length, maybe a third of a length. So Oxford have to hold here. They have to hold. They have to be confident being down, being led, and make sure they settle into their rhythm now.
But what does this feel like in the middle of the boat, Zoe? You've been there, you've been in those situations. You've got to keep calm.
You've got to really trust your rhythm. You've got to trust what you've done in training, and you've got to believe that your race pace is going to take you through and not try and do too much too soon.
Daniel Orton is just passing the instruction to Heidi Long in the stroke seat for Oxford. But again, Oxford are being warned as they creep across into Cambridge's water. And Heidi Long tries to pass down that wonderful rhythm she has down the boat through behind her to Kyra Del Rey and Annie Anazakis, Sarah Marshall, Alexia Lowe, Tess Haining, Lily Fleischman and Sarah Paulson in the bow seat, and now Cambridge being warned. My goodness, that fast channel is being fiercely fought over today.
They're making this hard work for Matthew Pinsent there, who's umpiring the race, but what a calm head to actually have as an umpire. Made a really good call there to restart, and it looks like both crews are still fighting from that coxing seat.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting because these coxes are relatively inexperienced. Daniel Orton from Oxford, he did learn how to row here on the Tideway. This is his home water, but this is his first go at the boat race. Jack Nicholson learned to row at Cambridge. So these guys, they've got a lot to do. There's a huge amount of multitasking involved.
So Zoe was saying that first bend is in favour of Cambridge, the Middlesex station, by about a quarter of a length, but they've pulled almost a length up now. So this big Surrey bend, as you can see, Hammersmith Bridge just starting to hove into view. That big Surrey bend is worth about 3/4 of a length to Oxford, and the warning flag comes out again because Cambridge trying to creep across to that southern Surrey bank.
Yeah, if you are in the Oxford crew now, you know this is your advantage coming up. You have to capitalise on it. And if you're Cambridge, you have to sit there and have the confidence to say, we are not going to let them get any closer to us. This is a chance to show them that even though it's their advantage, we are going to hold.
Calm faces there in the Oxford crew. What have they got to do now to stay in this race?
Well, one thing I will say about Oxford is I think that when they rowed in their fixture against Leander, they were down and they actually did row well. They stayed on their rhythm. So they have to do that now. It's the same pressure with the crew on, leading them. However, now it's boat race day. Everything is to play for here today.
There's a good look at the Cambridge boat. And Sammy Morton, the stroke. The Australian international, then Tash Morris and Claire Collins behind her. And Cambridge are putting on a push here because, again, Oxford look to be, from this angle, look to be just holding them. And a little look across from Jack Nicholas, the Cambridge Cox. But Cambridge looking to establish clear water because then they can choose their water. They could come across. And Oxford are no more than holding on here, just about holding in touch.
Yeah, they're in pain now. They've done the first 2 kilometres of this race. They've had an upset in that first kilometre. It's going to be hurting. They've done a restart, 2 amounts of sprinting, and they're not even the first third through.
There's some interesting steering going on here. It looked like Cambridge had actually gone a bit wide as they were coming out, and I think Jack Nicholas realised that, and he's now brought his crew back onto that faster water. And now what he's doing, is setting those puddles down towards Cambridge, towards Oxford, which is going to be causing a little bit of disruption under the Oxford shell as it it sort of makes them swell in the water, makes it even harder for Oxford to be in their rhythm and row cleanly.
Yeah, it's a virtuous circle rowing. When you get ahead, all other benefits come your way. You can choose your own line, your own water, but as Zoe was saying, you're passing down those puddles, that dirty water, which just slows the chasing boats down. And Cambridge now have just a little bit of clear water.
And they'll know that. They'll be told that. Jack will turn around and say, you've broken them. You've got a clear water. It's almost the feeling of snapping an elastic band and then moving away, it looks here.
I know a lot of these athletes are so used to championship racing over a 2,000-metre course, and then you come to the boat race, which is, what, 6,800 metres of twisting water, and it's so different. So they start to redline from about 2 minutes in, and then you're just holding in through the pain and the suffering.
I think that's it. It's a race to the front, ultimately, because then you do have control over the race.
In the feet. Yeah, good. They're not moving anywhere. They're really wide. In the feet, Annie.
A good view there of the little rudder wires. That's where the steering comes from in the coxes, and it just takes the slightest pull on those wires to actually create quite a bit of drag as you change direction, so you've got to be so gentle on those. And Cambridge now being warned again, although they do have that clear water, but still Oxford are close enough. I remember last year when Oxford put a push on trying to bump them and effectively get Cambridge disqualified, but that gap is growing.
Yeah, you can see that view there, great from above. You can see the Cambridge crew just moved and chosen the best line to row in. It might annoy Matthew Pinsent a little bit in the umpiring seat, Zoe?
He's going to be nervous, isn't he? Like, he's just had that big start. I'm sure for Matthew Pinsent, the adrenaline is also flowing, just as much it is for the crews here. But I think Cambridge are just now, they're inching away, aren't they? They're not fully breaking that string between them and Oxford, but they're slowly putting that distance in.
Yeah, it does grow. And let's go down once again to Jasper Parish, 2022 Cambridge women's cox, and the men in 2023. Jasper, this is pretty much after the early tussle, playing out according to the bookmakers, according to the odds, because Cambridge are putting in a big push now and drawing clear.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Cambridge were pretty heavy favourites for this race. I'll tell you something, I do not envy the job of umpire Sir Matthew Pinsent. He's working very hard to keep these crews in safe places. There's been some quite creative steering, I think I'd say, from both crews. Lots of warnings going down for each side. I think the story of this race is going to be the drama of that first minute or two, where Daniel Orton was quite aggressive. And I think if anything does happen in the remainder of this race that causes Oxford to maybe pip Cambridge, if that miraculously happens, then there's going to be appeals going down, and there'll be a significant discussion here on the launch about who's going to take it. As I say that, I think Cambridge are very likely to just hold this one out. What you might not see from the cameras, actually, is just how much the wind has picked up in the last 2 minutes. It's a pretty stiff headwind right now. Cambridge look to be handling it well, as do Oxford. But anything can happen, you know, it's a boat race. More creative steering, maybe logs in the water, anything can happen, and this margin can change in the blink of an eye, so be ready.
Thank you, Jasper. Yes, it does. It can get lively with a west-southwesterly wind as you come into Chiswick here, past in Chiswick Reach and past Chiswick there, the island. This is where the Thames opens up, and it's a sort of blustery expanse of water. So that wind coming in meets the tide coming the other way, and it really can chop up.
I think this is a difficult part of the race as well, because not only physically are the athletes really starting to have that lactic acid build up in the legs. You know, there's that, the lungs are burning, the heart's been racing, but also at this point, there are fewer crowds. You know, those hundreds of thousands of people lining the bank, you can still see them here, but as you come round to Chiswick Pier, that all starts to die away and it gets very quiet and you are on your own a little bit more.
They are not walking away, Cambridge. Oxford have kept that distance. It's been about half a length to a length of clear water. I tell you what, they're putting in a really good bit of work here. This shift of not letting Cambridge move away has been impressive.
Yeah, the gap is significant, but it's not growing to a decisive lead quite yet. You heard the instructions of Daniel Orton, who did that aggressive coxing early on. Both feet, both feet. You know, you look at rowing and you think it's a pull of the upper body and the arms and the oars. It's the legs, the legs, the legs that will burn come the end. Leg drive, you hear it there from Daniel Orton again, Jess.
Yeah, this is really stinging now, and what Cambridge have done, but almost absorbed that corner. It was against them round that bend here. and they've absorbed all of Oxford's advantage, and it's about to turn into Cambridge's bit of water.
I think this is going to be the bit now where you have to really believe in what you have done in every single training session, on every erg, in every weight session leading up to today. It's not about the strokes you take today, it's about everything you've done to get here.
You hear a scream there from Annie Anazakis for Oxford, the president in the 6th seat, the Australian, who said that she would sell her soul for victory here. And she's trying to lift her crew, as is Daniel Orton. A reset. As a Cox, you have to lie. You have to convince somehow that you're still in touch.
Yeah, these rowers, their heads will be in the boat. Of course they'll know that Cambridge are beating at the moment, but they've got to really lock in, listen to the coxswain, listen to what he's got to say, and you want to keep this margin as small as possible right now.
And I think that's where someone like Annie can really drive the crew. She's very dynamic, she's a feisty leader. You know, her energy and her enthusiasm is really needed here to keep that boat believing that they still have a chance.
So they come up and you can see in the distance the riverfront at Barnes, and Matthew Pinson, a lot is going through his head, Matthew Pinson, at the moment, umpiring this race. So much went on so early on. So there are the Chiswick Steps. I mean, the record, I'm sure we're taking this time today. We didn't stop the clock, did we? So it's a little bit irrelevant. But what is important is the gap between the crews at the moment. And Oxford are going to dig in here. It's surely going to be another Cambridge victory as the sun glints off the waters of the Thames. But Oxford have to just limit the damage of that victory.
They've got to dig in. This score, this distance is going to be marked down on history. It's going to be put on a board in the boat club. They want to keep this as tight as possible. And we've still got about 2 kilometres to go. Anything could still happen in the race.
And I think you do have to believe that ultimately when you're down. You have to believe that something can happen, that you can still win. And we've seen those races where someone's caught a crab, or, you know, someone has passed out. And, you know, that all these things can still happen in this race because it is such an unusual race, rather than our, you know, 2 kilometres, 6 lanes across, this one-on-one, such a long race. Things do happen that are unexpected.
You saw them passing the bandstand, a familiar sight of the boat race, and then they'll shoot the central span of Barnes Railway Bridge, one of the rules of the boat race. And again, on that long lens there, it seems as if Oxford are within touch. They are not, and Cambridge are cruising as much as you can cruise at this stage when the pain is just seems relentless. But you've got to push on for another 1,500 metres or so.
Cambridge will be corny. You just heard there Jack shouting, saying, be arrogant. They want to shut this door. You want to stop Oxford thinking they've got any chance of coming back. And going now through Barnes, it looks like it's almost a done deal.
And I think now really is the time when, again, Oxford have to be doing some introspection. What is happening? Oxford women have not lifted the trophy now for 9 years. They've got to say what is being done differently at Cambridge. Is it just that success begets success, or is it something fundamental happening at Oxford that is not allowing them to get back on terms?
The echoing calls of Daniel Orton in the Oxford coxing seat as they go under Barnes Railway Bridge. Again, that gap hasn't stretched out anymore, but it is more than enough for Cambridge. It is going to be 8 victories in a row. And they will hear the cheers, if you can hear anything at this stage of a race, because I think all you can hear is the blood pumping in your head and your heavy breathing. But if they can hear the cheers from the riverbank, that will carry them home. It's a big lead. It's going to be a big victory, and it's going to be another defeat for the Oxford women. Still some way to go around this final bend here.
Paddy Ryan, the coach of Cambridge, going to be looking at this right now and be sitting one of those launchers, pleased with this job, confident that his programme is producing these wins time after time. Bit of work for Oxford now, though.
Things a lot more placid now in the umpire's launch as Matthew Pinson watches on. There will be a bit of an inquest afterwards, though, into what went on earlier in the race. And Oxford chased this lost cause, and suffering must be magnified when you know that you're not going to win. And you have to just dig deep to find something to drive you on as Chiswick Bridge comes into view, and the end will be blessed relief for both crews, but that relief will come with jubilation for Cambridge as the water's churned up behind with all the following launches. But Cambridge will continue this dominance in the women's race.
The favourites going into this race, bit of drama we saw at the start, and right now they can almost enjoy it. They're going to be in so much pain. Don't get anyone wrong here. This is a painful, long race. 18 minutes. They've got about 30 seconds left of the race, but they can soak this up knowing they're about to win.
I think Matthew Pinson made the right decision to stop and just restart quickly. Matthew was on the launch in 2012 during our race when the swimmer stopped the race. The race stopped, we turned around, it took ages, and today he just got on with it, and that was the right decision.
So the final few strokes and final few pushes, and the crowds wait, lining Chiswick Bridge and the banks. Matthew Pinson, great oarsman, watches on. Another great performance by Cambridge. It's 10 years in the tideway now for the women's boat race. The first two, when they arrived here, were won by Oxford, won by the Dark Blues. Since then, it has all been light blue. It has all been Cambridge. They are going to make it 8 in a row. And there was drama, there was intrigue, there was, well, certainly something to talk about early on in the race. And now the cries can turn to cheers within that light blue boat, because it is victory in the 79th women's boat race for Cambridge. It is Cambridge again. Wind down is the instruction, and celebrate. Well, they need no instruction for that. And Oxford, you know, over a 4¼ mile course, it doesn't look much of a gap. They fought hard and fought to the end, Oxford, but their exhaustion comes with deep disappointment. But for Cambridge, that suffering won't seem like much suffering at all now.
What a race by this crew. Favourites going into it. They delivered drama at the start, but we saw there what it means to the winning crew and what it means to the losing crew too.
Well, I mean, so much happened in the opening 500 metres to a kilometre of that race. But after that, it played out as we expected it to play out. Cambridge, just with that bit more quality. Yes, Oxford and Heidi Long and some very good oarswomen in there, but I think there's more depth within the Cambridge squad in terms of international quality.
Absolutely, and I think these Cambridge women, some of them we are going to be seeing, you know, in the Olympics in 28, on the podium probably. They're huge strength and depth across the whole club. And though Oxford had that top end, maybe that might have been what was missing.
Yeah, the power in that crew from Cambridge. You saw some really big ergos on the rowing machine, in the weights room. You know, we've been watching these women all year through the documentaries we've been watching about them. They're strong. They're a real powerful outfit, and they proved it today.
Yeah, that power in the middle of the boat. But again, it's throughout. It's from cox to stroke through to bow, and then Oxford. Again, the final margin of victory will be announced and confirmed later on, but it doesn't really matter. It's all about winning and all about losing in the boat race. And for the winners, absolutely everything. But Cambridge do it again, and you're talking during the race there, you know, how will things change at Oxford? Is it a question of the system, of the coaching, or is it intake as well, the quality of athletes who've come into the Cambridge setup?
I suspect it's a bit of everything, isn't it? And ultimately, if you're looking at applying to the boat race, would you say, well, I want to go to the team that's been winning for 8 years, or do I go to Oxford? I mean, obviously I'd go back to Oxford because, you know, why wouldn't I? But that's difficult, and so Oxford have to be able to offer something now to those men and women who want to come in and race with them next year.
Well, the heart rates start to drop and all the noise slips away, and into the Mortlake Anglian and Alpha Boat Club they come, and the cheers and the Wellington boots presented by clubmates, and the celebrations will begin in earnest, and we move over to the men now. But Cambridge have taken it. The women's boat race, the 79th women's boat race goes to Cambridge. It is 8 in a row.
Wow, well, what a dramatic race we just saw. Rosa Millard, winner with Cambridge back in 2023, alongside me watching that. And we've got to go back to that first 90 seconds when the blade clash came in. We thought there could be a disqualification. That is what Sir Matthew Pinsent was saying in the launch, umpiring the race. Just your take on that moment.
I'm going to be honest, that'll have been their absolute worst nightmare.
For Cambridge, you mean, or for both crews?
Well, for both crews, a restart is not what you want, but for Cambridge, I mean, Sophia Hahn, you just saw her being embraced by Lucy Havard, president. That will have literally been her worst nightmare, but I thought they handled it incredibly well. They got up off that second restart, and they were absolutely fantastic, nailed the race plan. Yeah, we've got to talk about that.
And you said that it is something that Cambridge, you know, particularly actually train for. They practice having a crab, and we should probably explain what a crab is as well.
So a crab is what you saw happen to the 5-seat of the Cambridge boat, where the blade gets stuck under the water and it kind of pushes you back and you see the oar handle goes over your head. It's really, I mean, we're going to see a replay of it now. You can see they're going to get a bit close together.
And so we see the crew, Oxford, on the left-hand side as we're looking at it, coming in towards the Cambridge line. This is where Matthew Pinsent started to tell them to come apart. And here you can see the blades coming closer and closer together.
Yeah, they're sort of interlocking. And this is something that, I mean, I know Cambridge, we do entire sessions dedicated to clashing practice. So yeah, they'll have practiced this time and time and time again. They also do, I mean, you're going to see it any minute now when the blade gets just sucked under the water. Any minute. There, you see the handle gets taken behind you, and that is kind of a boat, it's like a brake, it's like a handbrake. It's a boat stopping thing, and you see they're desperately trying to retrieve it. And at Cambridge, they do practices for crabs. We practice catching crabs and practice getting going again. And you see, they kind of, even if they hadn't restarted, they only lost a couple of seats because they recovered it so quickly.
So this is the restart now, and we saw Oxford trying to row away in that initial clash. Matthew Pinsent stopped the race, brought them back, was actually questioning the coxing of Dan Orton in the Oxford boat as to whether that was bad enough and kind of race defining enough to disqualify the crew within 90 seconds of the race.
Yeah, that is absolutely unheard of. You heard him talking to Sarah Langslow, the reserve umpire, saying, is that even a disqualification? Matthew Pinsent, well, the last time we had a restart was the 2012 men's race, which Zoe, who was commentating, was actually in herself. Matthew was on the launch for that as well, so he'll have known the mistakes of last time and to just sort of make a really quick decision in the moment. We're going to restart, we're going to do it right now. No faffing, just get straight to it. And that way the crews are just, they're not even thinking about it, they're just going straight away.
So heading back towards live pictures now then, we'll see scenes of celebration for Cambridge, desolation once again for Oxford, because for the crew members, that there are 8 women rowing in that race, they'll have been completely unaware of what was coming up towards them in the race. It's an 8th loss in a row. I mean, it's hard to even put into words. How do you go back now? How do you go back to the drawing board for an 8th and 9th time now?
I would say I'm convinced that Oxford are gaining momentum. I think that it will take time for them to win again, and I think every year they're getting better and better. I mean, you saw the rowing. I thought the rowing looked absolutely fantastic. To be honest, I think they were the cleaner of the 2 crews. They looked really good. They looked well drilled, but perhaps that moment just rattled them a little bit more than the Cambridge crew. Hard to say. I think in the next few years Oxford will gain the momentum again, but at the moment it's kind of hard to deny Paddy Ryan and his program. You saw then, it's just, I mean, yeah, it's hard to deny.
And Zoe de Toledo in the commentary was making that point. If you're a budding athlete, you're looking at which club to go to, where you're going to get the most out of it, where you're going to become a winner. There's no choice right now, is there?
Yeah, there really isn't, to be honest, but you kind of hope that they're selling it to these international recruits that they get. They might, yeah, you'd hope that they're selling it more so that they start to come to Oxford, so that Oxford can gain that momentum. I think this year is a really good starting point in the tide turning with Heidi, Cara Del Rey. I mean, even some of the other names like Sarah Paulson in the bow seat, very experienced. Tessa Haining. I mean, these guys, they're very experienced rowers, but just, I think something that Cambridge do really well is whole 8 cohesion. You see it, they don't have the best names, but they are bigger than the sum of the parts. They've really come together, and they're just, there's something different about Paddy's program.
And actually, you pointed out during the race to me, he was watching on, wasn't he? Looking very, very nervous.
Yes. So he'll have been in one of the launches behind, and he was accompanied by Jenna Armstrong and Quiver Dempsey, two past presidents. Well, the last two presidents, actually. You saw on the restart, Quiver was just like holding Paddy's shoulders, reassuring him that it's going to be okay, and that's kind of the point of the ex-presidents being in the launch with him, to just give him that reassuring tap, because my goodness, that will have been his absolute worst nightmare.
Well, we're getting some shots from along the course, almost 7 kilometres. We saw Chiswick Pier there. Some people making the chance of the nice weather and having a picnic. We were hoping to hear from the winning crew, perhaps the losing crew as well. But we'll wait on that in a moment. Obviously, there's a there's a huge moment for these women when they come off the boat, Rosa, and we, I think, expect them to talk so quickly, and actually the effects of the race can be so powerful on your body that often we see those who can't speak straight away, don't we?
Yeah, they'll absolutely be gobsmacked, and I expect once we do see them, we'll see that they're being embraced by their teammates. The lightweights from yesterday will be there to walk them in, probably some of the students that weren't able to race today, very much part of the crew and part of the atmosphere. Gosh, I mean, the men's race, what's to come? That was too much already. Head in hands.
But ice creams in between, hey, why not? So we will hear from the winning crew from Cambridge in the women's boat race shortly, but for the moment we are building up to the 170th men's boat race coming up in just over half an hour's time. In the meantime, though, we're now going to dip into Turning the Tide. It's the 4-part documentary that charts the highs, the lows and preparations for both Cambridge and Oxford as they get ready for this today, 2025's boat race. And you can access all 4 parts of the series on the Boat Race website and YouTube channel. And here's a little peek for you now.
Jesus, now.
First day back after training camp, so an early morning this morning, 2 sessions on the water, and then we rushed the guys to get back to classes. The handle's going to go a little bit away from you, and then we really follow it round as it comes round.
I think with Rob Baker, it's absolutely fascinating in terms of how coaches react to the pressure that's on them.
We're working hard, but we're not productive. We're 3 times more effective in the first third of the stroke than we are in the last third of the stroke.
Last year, I think he knew he was up against it. This year, post-Olympic year, I think there's more pressure on it.
I think it's really important we get some of these basics right.
Yeah, more so than any other programme. A lot of the responsibility ultimately comes down to the coach.
Okay, let's get after it.
Get hands on, back on.
Calm recovery on the inside, that direct path up to the catch. It's just a huge honour to be able to coach the CBC. Have these people under your guidance. It's not sunshine and flowers. That's not what this is about. It's about the toughness, it's about the challenge, and it's about wanting to win. That's what inspires me. All the time, you're thinking, have we done enough? Are we good enough? I don't think there's ever a point where you think you have. I think the challenge of what we go through is what makes it great, but that means that there are dark days. Very difficult decisions on who makes boats. Days when training and racing doesn't go the way you want it to go.
What do you want to do?
All right. We're going to do 18 and we'll do some bursts, basically. I don't want to do anything more than that. Let's step outside.
I'll try a bit more if we don't burst with the breaking the box.
Yeah,
See if I can
yeah.
get that.
I'm getting a bit frustrated because we do the bursts and stuff. They're just getting out cranked by the goalie line up. And okay, we're not going to do that now, so we'll do what we need to do. But the guys are just getting a bit Frankly, it's just, this happens every year to a degree. It's nothing new, but they get a bit in defensive mode.
Okay.
And start trying to sort of question what's going on. It's like, well, you're being outwatted by 30 watts. That's why you're a seat down, you know.
Let's do some square blades to level that up. Square blade rowing. Ready, go.
Yeah, just let it go.
He really gets it. He gets Cambridge rowing, and he loves Cambridge as well. To do what he's done with underdog crews in pretty much every year he's been here is incredible. And I think people in the rowing world are starting to realise that.
I think Oxford have brought a fascinating development into their coaching staff. Mark Fangenhall, his first year, anyone could say if he loses the boat race, that's fine. You know, he's got his feet under the table. None of that matters to Mark. It's like it's his one chance. It's like Mark won't have any more chances. This is the only race that matters to him.
Today, the guys are doing a 5K test on the rowing machines.
This one has an extra little bit of edge to it. It's coming towards the end of January. Will be used in selection. 1K splits, please. Do not forget, do not get that bit wrong.
Remember your why, lads. Make it happen. Attention!
I think for everyone everyone has a different why as to the reason why they're here. You know, as long as people sort of keep that why hidden in their locker and it keeps them fired up and ready to go when they turn up to race, whoever it may be, that's all that we need, really.
Yes, Simon! Go! Go! Let's go! Let's go!
Coaches will definitely motivate and communicate to their crew during an erg test.
Yes, Ben! More! Let's go!
And to the layman, that might seem like a coach is yelling at you in quite an aggressive manner.
Got to start going now. Up, 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 up. Start moving. You've got to go now. Now!
The reality is when your heart rate is north of 200 beats per minute and you have to hold it there for another 10 minutes, like the communication is going to be pretty raw and your brain is sort of just going full monkey mode on you.
Seb, push! You've got to start moving now. Let's go! Hoppers, go! Stop moving!
Trust that you've got the time. Just keep pressing.
There's more skill. It's more depth of knowledge of how of what they're doing in the blue boat this year. I mean, it'd be a bit naive to say, you know, you've got Olympian, Olympic spare, someone's been to senior worlds and go, yeah, it's not as strong. I mean, in terms of skill and application, yes, it's a more skillful boat, and definitely in power, yes.
Go! Hips! Glutes! 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 5! Everyone happy with the start?
Arms super loose. Yeah.
Next stroke, a tiny bit of rudder. We're 2 8 lengths off.
What we're still trying to work out, we have approximately 3 seats that our data to date puts them all very close together. From our land training to pieces on the water, they're all very close. You know, when we've done the Cox 4 seat racing, for example, we had 0.3 of a second between 3 of them.
That's it. Legs stay to deck.
We're using 8s to see how they impact the bigger picture and stuff like that. You know, it's not just about watts, it's about speed as well.
Go. Take it out. Good.
Good start. Well done.
What you build with a group of people, that is what you can hold on to.
I think it's only ever really been about the club, the squad, the group of guys that I'm in.
a stroke side, stand a bit towards your rigger.
The community that I've got from this team over the years, that's what I'm racing for. It's for all those people that have done the race before and all those people that will go on to do the race.
A lot of people are impressive in the boat race. I think Heidi particularly stands out. She is from Marlow Rowing Club, local club. She's had to kind of stick at it. There's an element of resilience there. I think more than that, Heidi has got this capacity to use her own life experience and to use her own energy as an inspirational tool for those around her.
I mean, you can ask any of my friends. I actually really love rowing, so being able to keep going out and rowing and training every day, like, those tough days don't actually seem that tough for me. I always find it really hard when people ask about what's your why and what's your purpose and why do you do these things. And fundamentally, I would not be who I am today without my dad. He had such a deep-rooted belief in what I could achieve that somehow I started to believe that I could too. Even small things like well, this is quite a big thing, but he had booked the Olympic tickets to the 8, the 4 and the pair before I was selected for any of the boats, because he didn't know what boat I'd be in, but there was that belief in him that I would be there, and he booked accommodation for my family to go. And sadly, he'd passed away before the Olympics, but I didn't need to tell him that I was there because I knew he knew from way before. Having such a loving dad for the whole of my life, ever since I was born, I think has really made me the confident person I am today. And to be a confident woman in this world is never that easy. So I think his love has really is the reason why. So yeah, I want to keep going out and trying to be that confident person that he would want me to be. Well, yeah, for him, to be honest.
It's a measure of the athlete, a measure of the person that Heidi has taken that experience and she's turned it into an extraordinarily compelling reason why.
When it gets really tough, I just think of Dad. I just think just 10 more for him. If he could fight through the disease that he had to fight through and keep doing it with positivity, then I could do 10 more rowing strokes. Like, that's so easy.
Good morning. It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 26th of March.
So not a bad looking day of weather ahead, actually. Lots of dry weather, spells of sunshine and some warmth to be had as well.
The boat race is just 2 weeks away.
You know, the thing about the boat race, I think anybody that doesn't know about the sport of rowing has kind of got to understand, end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, sport of rowing was like the sport of football is today. It was massively important. People used to go and watch the top professional rowers compete on the Thames or on the Tyne, and they would also go and watch the boat race. You'd have these huge crowds, you know, in the 19th century watching rowing, and The thing is, professional rowing's now gone, and you don't have the huge crowds watching rowing, but you go down to boat race and you've got upwards of 250,000 people on one of the world's great free shows.
Hardly a seat to be had on the banks of the Thames. 250,000 spectators.
It is the one, it is the original, it's the thing that people around the world want to watch. It'll be often the first and only time that rowing comes into their lives. That's how important this contest is.
Are the trophies on their way? I can see you.
Crew naming day is such a big day for the boat race.
10:38 and we're here at Battersea Power Station for the crew announcement. Craziest start. Just getting prepared to do some media, BBC, bit of a military operation.
We're at Battersea Power Station for the crew announcement.
Today's really important. It's about bringing together the wider public. It's about celebrating the teams.
This is a sign where the athletes get to say, I have now made my blue.
Get a chance to see the competition.
You guys going to be ready in about 10
It's something that only 9 people on the men's side, 9 people on the women's side get to do every year.
Yeah, if you've got loads of jewellery on, can you just take me to one or take it off just for this, please? There's a lot going on, a lot of different moving parts, a lot of different things to capture. I'm on a military schedule here. How are you getting on? Right side stay, women out, please. Running a bit behind schedule. Oxford left, please. The quicker you do it, the less painful it is.
Getting here is a combination of a lot of hours, and a lot of investments of time. So, yeah, no, I've been looking forward to this for quite a while and very happy to be here.
Selection for a boat like this is always challenging.
The commitment's massive. Everyone's fighting for seats all the time.
It is really essential that you get the selection decisions right. Selecting the fastest athletes is the crux of it.
Really fine margins between the top group of guys.
Some people are going to make the crew and some aren't.
We have been fighting each other for a seat in the blue boat. That's one of the really hard things about rowing is you train together and yet have to try and beat your teammates and your friends to get that seat that you've been dreaming of.
To make it all the way to that crew announcement and getting to, stand in front of all the media and the whole world essentially and being able to get your spot, absolutely incredible.
The lineup had been pretty set for a couple of weeks, and we were just sort of hanging around in the changing room, and the coach came in and just said, I think this is the boat. We're gonna race the boat race in.
A weight lifted off of the shoulders and just pure excitement and just a lot of smiling and grinning.
Up until the point that the crew is selected, your seat is never safe.
A lot of seat racing, a lot of fixtures and looking at the telemetry.
Definitely not guaranteed. There's selection pressures. There's also just the obvious injury, illness, trying to balance the academics with the training, which is very tough.
I had hip surgery last summer. I didn't know if I was going to recover in time for the boat race. It was touch and go for quite a lot of the season.
Been trying quite a few years. I was president a couple of years ago and didn't make the boat. From there on, I've been pushing to try and really earn my seat in the blue boat. Those losses and those times I didn't make the boat just make it all the sweeter now making the boat and feeling like the hard work really pays off.
The boat race for me is a phenomenal opportunity to take part in a rowing race with a history that essentially goes back further than any other.
It really puts you in touch with the past in a way that I don't think you often get to be.
You really feel when you're building into race week, into the race day, you're part of something bigger.
It has a massive global interest.
Watched by millions of people all around the world.
It's about as big an occasion as you'll get in the sport of rowing.
More people watch the boat race than watch the Olympic finals.
Outside of football, the most watched women's sporting event on the planet.
There's nothing else like it in the entire world.
The day itself is special because it's unpredictable. You get up in the morning, you've seen the weather forecast, but you don't know what the conditions are going to be like on the river. So that's the first thing I look for, because the key thing about the boat race is, yes, it's crew against crew, but it's both crews against the river. The river is the other big character in this sporting event.
Watch that they're rowing and it's really smacking the blades.
What it does on the day, well, who knows? Mother Nature knows.
I can't believe what I'm seeing.
The Tideway is a very special place to race.
It seems like anything can happen.
The wind against the tide can be a real leveller, can change the race dramatically in a matter of seconds.
You never really know how fast they are, what it's going to be like to race them.
We don't know our speed relative to theirs. Everyone finds out same day, same time we do.
That's the beauty of the race.
It is a totally different beast to racing on a normal flat lake 2K course.
Very different to what we'd normally be doing at a world championship.
It's very likely at some point down the course there will be some really nasty conditions for our crew. 2016, 10 years ago, they had waves crashing over the side of the boat to the point where the women's boat very nearly sank.
History is being made, not the history we wanted to see today, that's for sure.
If you've got choppy conditions on the day, that's something that you as a crew have got to take into consideration. Maybe you make a bit more shape, so when you actually tap down with your oar and give yourself separation between the water, tactics-wise, if the other boat is moving away, you don't need to think, you just need to do what the cox says. Your cox's word is gospel. You listen to whatever they say, no questions asked. It's actually quite straightforward.
I would say the cox is the most important person in the boat race crew. This is a brutal battle, a battle for the fastest water. Cox against cox, who's got the bottle? Who is going to fight for that water to get a centimetre quicker run out of the boat?
They are throwing everything at you. I am looking at Thor. He is struggling.
They have to have nerves of steel, and that's just the steering.
There's been clashes in the past, there have been people swimming in the river in the past.
And there he is, there's this swimmer, the intruder in the water.
Some people have lost oars in the past.
You have to remain calm, communicate incredibly clearly.
They're putting a push in now. We are brave and we are on our rhythm.
When the crew is under pressure, when they're under attack, there's been heart rate monitors on them, and their heart rate is up like 160, 165. It's almost like they're running a race.
When the flag drops on boat race day, there is part of me that is completely internal and focusing on the rhythm of the girl in front of me and the girl behind me. But there's another part that is get our bow ball ahead as soon and as fast as possible.
At the end of the day, you're training for the race that's the boat race.
In their minds, this is the only thing that matters to me, and it matters more than that because it has such tradition, because it would be on anyone's bucket list of events to say, I've done. I mean, I've never done the boat race. I've won at Henley, I've won at the Olympics, but I never managed to win the boat race. I can't tick that off. These guys have come to Oxford and Cambridge to say they've done that. It is massively important. It is all that matters to them.
I'll be putting sort of every ounce of my resource into this race. But I recognise that some days on race day, things just don't go your way. And you just have to deal with that. Does that mean I'm not going to try? No way in hell.
I know people want pure drama and great racing. And if there's one thing the boat race guarantees, it is drama.
It is some contest. And Cambridge are in real trouble. And again they're being warned.
The race has been stopped. The race has been stopped.
The intruder in the water.
It's good to finally be here.
Good to finally be here.
The boat race is unique. It's so different to any event. I cover a lot of sporting events in the professional world, and it is just different. It is just competition, it's just rivalry. It is just for winning or losing. That's everything.
You know, I remember as a kid, people would ask me, around about the time of boat race, like, which team are you? And I remember kids in my road, they were wearing sort of bits of dark blue or light blue wool as kind of favours of the team that they supported. I mean, they didn't really know anything about it. It was on the telly, but it was such a compelling thing for young oarsmen and women. They're your rowing heroes. You look up to them and you aspire to be like them. So it's incredibly aspirational, it's incredibly inspirational. And it's one of the things the rowing community, not just in Britain, but in the whole world, looks up to. And so you get people, you know, in many countries of the world, And the first look at rowing they get is the Oxford and Cambridge boat race. And you can't say better than that.
It's gonna be a long way home. It's gonna take my heart and soul, my heart and soul. I only see you now in memory, or in the night on a long drive through. Someday I'll put off the road somewhere near Easter morning, and I'll find that little church where my family filled the pew. I spent my whole life for my world. It's gonna take my heart and soul, my heart and soul.
A peek at Turning the Tide there, the brilliant 4-part documentary charting the highs and lows of life for Oxford and Cambridge rowers leading up to the boat race. You can access all 4 parts of the series right now on the boat race website and also on their YouTube channel. And we already know the result of the women's boat race today, an 8th victory in a row for Cambridge over Oxford after a dramatic start which saw the Cambridge crew catch a crab after a clash. There was a restart ordered by umpire Sir Matthew Pinson. So let's hear now from some of that winning Cambridge crew, Sammy Morton, Carousel and Jack Nicholas with Rishi Prasad.
Jack Nicholas alongside me, along with Carousel and Samantha Morton. Jack, I'll start with you because, of course, the big talking point about this race is what happened early on. From your perspective, what was your view?
Yeah, I mean, I was holding a line and sort of Oxford really encroached on that territory. And then I just held that line, clash, that's just racing, you know, and then I guess paid the price. That's how it goes.
It is how it goes, but you regathered yourselves and very quickly established a significant advantage, Karis.
Yeah, so this is something we practice for. Obviously, you don't want to be clashing and stopping the race halfway through, but it is something that might happen. So we trained for this. You keep your head cool. You know, the race isn't over till you cross that line. So we quickly reset, made sure we're in that right position, and then we just repeated that start off again. We had our middle seconds advantage, and we wanted to make the most of that. And yeah, everyone did an incredible job, especially Sphere. She recovered incredibly well, and yeah, got back on the game and made it to the finish line first.
Samantha, when you were just standing here, we were waiting to do this interview. I said, "How are you all feeling?" And you said,
"Dazed." Yeah, I mean, you prepare for a clash, but it's never really something you think is going to happen. I mean, you could probably count on 2 hands how many times it's happened in the history of the boat race. And when it happened, I was honestly shell-shocked. Wouldn't have known what to do had it not been for Tash and Jack yelling at me. And the race just like goes past in a whirl. It's almost 7K, but longer, way quicker than most of the shorter races I've ever done. So yeah, 100%. Just kind of dazed.
When you describe the sort of effort that people are putting in on that boat, and you're seeing it at such close quarters, Jack, how do you describe it to people at home?
Inspiring, incredible, pretty cool, you know. Yeah. All the adjectives. I've left my thesaurus at home.
Well, it's okay. I hope you've got your celebration boots on because that's what it's time for you guys now. Well done to you all. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
An 8th victory in a row for Cambridge. Pretty cool. It's always good to see, but... Right, so we turn our attention to the men's race now, Rosa, the 170th men's boat race coming in just under 5 minutes' time. We can see the wind, actually, I think, really starting to pick up there from just what I was seeing from the trees behind and the hats of some of the spectators. Yeah. And, of course, the tide increasing. We saw it so fast at the start of the women's race. But let's talk about what we should expect here in the men's race. Again, it has been a picture of Cambridge dominance in recent years. Won the past 2 in a row, 5 of the last 6. But the Oxford crew really stacked with some big international names this year.
Yeah, so in the Oxford stern, we have 3 Olympians, President Tom McIntosh, Nick Rusher and Nick Cole. Tom McIntosh won a gold medal with the men's 8 in Tokyo, and Nick Rusher won a bronze in the men's 8 in Paris. They are incredibly stacked. They've not only got international rowing royalty, they have boat race royalty with Tass von Müller and James Doran, very experienced.
And we've got a late switch as well in the Cambridge crew to tell you about. Luca Ferraro moving to the 7 seat. Simon Hatcher, we found out earlier, moving to the bow seat. This was due to illness earlier. Rosa, quite an unusual call to do that right right on race day?
Yeah, so that's pretty last minute. I think that all coaches would avoid last minute change, but it's not without reason, and Rob Baker is incredibly experienced in the boat race, and to be honest, they'll have been rowing together for so long, they'll know each other so well that a switch like that shouldn't make that much difference.
And in terms of when we say illness, what I'm reading here, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but the impact that perhaps sitting in the 7th seat might have. So we think Simon Hatcher's moved to bow because of this illness. Perhaps Luca Ferraro needed in that 7th seat, of course, such an important position in the boat.
Yeah, so Luca was rowing at 7 last year in the boat race and stroked the year before. He's also rowed at bow in the boat race, so he's done a lot of seats, but I think if Simon is perhaps not 100%, he's only 99, Rob might say, look, just for this one day, we're going to have Luca in instead. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Simon's clearly well enough to row, well enough to race. And yeah, trust Rob.
And we've got pictures there of the start. Again, as always, Putney Bridge completely laden with fans. We can see the district line passing through in the background on the London Underground. A final word then before we hand to commentary of how we expect this one to unravel. I think it's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, it should be really good. As we just said, the Oxford boat is pretty stacked, but earlier in the year, Cambridge won Head of the Charles, which is a huge race in America, probably the biggest head race in the world. They won and beat Oxford by 8 seconds. At the start of a recent race, Oxford had a pretty weak start, but they have similar base pace. So it'll be interesting to see how Oxford have improved on their start since the Holland Becker. Yeah.
And a good fun fact I'm going to pull out now as well. Oxford have the upper hand in post-Olympic boat races. They have won the past 5. The last post-Olympic Cambridge triumph back in 2001. Will it change today? Let's hand to commentary then. Jess Eddy, Zoe de Toledo alongside Andrew Cotter.
Of the 170th men's boat race. And it's interesting talking about that multinational makeup of the crews. A similar feeling to 2022, I think, when Oxford was stacked with Olympians. This is what happens in a post-Olympic years. As we hear the voice of umpire Sarah Winkles. So we're just going to sit easy under the instruction of Sarah Winkles, because there are a couple of boats coming down stream, I think. So we'll just take a closer look at the two crews. Look at Tom McIntosh there, Nick Rusher, Nico Cole. Those are all Olympians in the Oxford stern. Now, there are Olympians in the Cambridge crew as well, but I think whatever the intake for Oxford in a post-Olympic year always seems to be just that little bit better. But Luca Ferraro, the Cambridge president, has said for whatever reason Cambridge seem to produce crews that are almost better than the sum of their parts.
I think similarly to the women's race that we've just seen, Oxford do have some really strong individuals, but Cambridge have very impressive depth in their squads. And like you say, Oxford actually have a very good winning record in those post-Olympic years. And they do seem to get some really, really good athletes in from those successful Olympic crews.
Now, just a quick late change there. You see Simon Hatcher in the bow seat for Cambridge, because he was supposed to be in the 7th seat, but there was a late switch with Luca Ferraro, the other president. Not nearest to us, that's Douwe de Graaf, very, very talented oarsman in the stroke seat, but Luca Ferraro behind him, he was supposed to be in the bow seat. But this order that they have now is one that they had 4 or 5 weeks ago as well, so it's pretty settled.
Yeah, they'll be used to at this stage of the game of singing different seats. They'll have rowed in all sorts of different combinations, so it shouldn't cause too much disruption at this point.
And a word for Sarah Winkles, who we've talked about Sarah as well. She's wonderful, Sarah, and a hugely talented sportswoman across any number of sports. She still holds various records at Cambridge University. But any vantage point is good for the boat race with a couple of 100,000 in the banks. But Sarah Winkles taking charge of a men's boat race on the Tideway for the first time. She did it in 2021 when the race was on the River Great Ouse at Ely. But taking charge on the Tideway, this is where an umpire really has to come into a very different challenge to doing things in Ely because of everything that the Thames has. And again, we're just hearing it's debris in the water. It's not boats coming down, it's debris in the water. But again, look at the strength of the incoming stream there. That's the tide coming in, so this could be fast. I think it's going to be very close, this one.
Yeah, that incoming tide, it comes in a lot quicker than it goes out, and it's quite tricky to row. And most of our races here are raced the other way around. We're rowing the boat race, though. It goes upstream, but with the incoming tide.
Well, each year Oxford and Cambridge start to build their crews again. They have 7 months. It's not a lot of time of training and hoping.
We've got choice here.
I can either wait for a boat to get it, or are we comfortable it's far enough clear?
So Sarah Winkler's just having a chat about that debris, just seeing if it's in the racing line. Not sure what the debris is, but it's debris and it's in the way. So.
And that is the problem with the tideway. You get all sorts of unusual things floating down the river. I've seen sofas and oil paintings and fridges and all sorts. So you do have to be quite aware of what's under the water.
Have you seen any of those things, or a vivid imagination?
No, I've actually seen
a sofa
them.
and a fridge.
Yes. Well, in our run up to our race, we ran over a fridge and really badly bent the fin.
Right, we're still hanging, and this just adds to the nerves, because as I mentioned, the 7 months of training and hoping that might be part of a longer held aim to be in the boat race. And look, there's Ollie Boyne, who has been on the rudder wires in the reserve boat for Cambridge, even when he was president, and suddenly gets his chance. And these are the really nervous times for the Coxes.
Yeah, getting onto the stake boat is really, really challenging, because like we saw how fast that stream is going, so it's pushing you away from the stake boat rather than helping you get attached to it. So it's quite a challenging thing to do, and then you really need to make sure that you are switched on, pointed in the right direction, listening to the umpire, ready to go.
Just wondering if we were concerned about the...
We have a boat on the course, he's just clearing it.
A boat on the course.
Sit down again, and once I'm comfortable, it's clear, I will stand up and we'll start the race, okay?
I mean, the tideway is tightly controlled on this day, but it is a very, very active river. So there's a boat somewhere. There are also some swans, I think, were not in the way.
Okay, both crews are just waiting to get that piece of wood picked up.
Oh, a piece of wood.
I think we'll probably just go without it.
Right. Get the official wood picker-uppers.
Seem quite relaxed there, the Port of London Authority. So I think we're moments away. It's tense time though. These crews have warmed up, got ready to be ready exactly 21 minutes past 2. So we're a little bit delayed.
Well, yeah, that's a good few minutes now, 4 minutes or so. But, you know, all the hours in the autumn and the winter and the dark and the rain and the training around the studying, and it's all for this moment. And they dream of being here on the boats. They dream even more of being 20 minutes' time under Chiswick Bridge celebrating. But this just adds to the tension. There's a sort of buzz from the crowd that you can hear because they don't really know what's going on. But the heart rates will be up already. But you have to try and calm it down because you've got to get that start right.
This is where you need to take 3 deep breaths, center yourself, and just think about the first stroke. Don't try and project 20 minutes down the course. Think about, how am I going to row the first couple of inches of the first stroke, get that right, then the second stroke will pick up from that, the third, and that's how you get down the track.
There's Dower de Graaf in the stroke seat for Cambridge. Big potential. He's part of Project LA, the Olympic development squad for Great Britain. It all seems very placid there, but again, just the slightly later time as well. This is on peak water rushing in time, so it can get quite active, quite lively and choppy, the river, because we saw that breeze, that westerly breeze coming into the cruise round about Chiswick Reach. And we do anticipate that these two crews are going to be close and still fighting for that fast channel at that stage of the race.
A little shot there. I think it was Hammersmith Bridge. If my bridge architecture is correct.
Looked like Putney to me.
Oh, right, okay. We'll agree to disagree.
Good bridge chat as Sarah Winkler takes a little bit of a pause at the moment because they're just waiting for this debris, this bit of wood, to be removed from the course. So you can see that it's fairly relaxed in the boats at the moment. I'm sure it's not relaxed at all, but hands are not on oars.
So look there at Chiswick Bridge. The cruise will be down there in about 20 minutes' time, but there's people thinking, where on earth are they? What's happening?
You're listening to Bridges of the Thames with Andrew Cotter, Jesse Eddy and Zoe Toledo. Barnes Railway Bridge is a fine bridge. Again, I don't know the architect of that. It's not a Joseph Bazalgette one.
And 2 bridges here to see, even better.
Putney Rail and Putney Bridge there. Yeah. Putney Bridge is one of the oldest crossings of the Thames after London Bridge and Westminster, actually.
Right. A podcast, perhaps, we should do.
One of the only bridges that's got a church on either side.
Interesting.
I can keep going.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you for looking.
We may have to. So the race has been delayed just because a bit of debris, a big bit of wood in the way in the stream, and it's obviously right out in the middle in the racing line here. So let's just take you through the crews there, and you see Tassilo von Müller in the shades just at the back just now, the German international, and in front of him Tom McIntosh. The very, very calm head, the New Zealander McIntosh and Rusher and Cole all racing at the Olympics for New Zealand, for the USA, for Italy. And then a reminder at the bow of the boat, Tom Sharrock in his second boat race was in the 2-seat in 2023. Will O'Connell, the Australian, Felix Rollinson, young Britain, and James Doran, who's in his third boat race, but desperate for a victory. And Tobias Bernard is very, very tall for a Cox. I think he's almost 6'1", Tobias Bernard, a 22-year-old chemistry student. And then in the Cambridge boat, Simon Hatcher, as I mentioned, that's a bit of a late change, moving to the bow seat, the American. And Luke Beaver wasn't in the boat 4 or 5 weeks ago, had a bit of an injury, but his family here watching, back in the boat, and brings a huge amount of character. He's been in the reserve boat before and now up to the blue boat. So we are finally ready for the 170th men's boat race. Sarah Winkles. Pressure and nerves for her as well. But both crews have been told to get ready, and now it's Tobias Bernard, arm up, saying he's not ready, and Tom McIntosh has seen something. Looks rather scared by it. A porpoise sailing by. Ollie Boyne with his arm up as well. And there, look at the strength of the stream coming in with them.
Oxford, what are you worried about?
There's wood in our water on our stroke side.
We'll let it go past, okay?
Let the wood go past.
It's far enough to Surrey that you should be okay, I think. Are you happy?
Well, Sarah Winkler saying, look, it's far enough out to the left there, to the Surrey bank, that it should be okay. There it is. Having his moment in the sun. Just looking for attention. Again, just hugely pressurized moments. And still, Tobias Bernard not happy. The Oxford Cox.
Oxford!
Sarah Winkler saying, get yourselves ready.
Go!
So finally we go. We go in the men's boat race. And immediately, they fire out at about 40 strokes a minute. They'll only settle down to 35, 36 or so. But this first minute, as Matt Edge was saying, who was in the blue boat for Cambridge last year, the first minute is all adrenaline. And then the pain kicks in after about a minute. The analgesic of the adrenaline leaves. And it's just suffering from then on. But so far, so even between the two.
Absolutely neck and neck here. Look at this. Both crews were warned really early on, but they have both kind of ignored that and just carried on that straight. Really, really good start from both crews here.
I thought Oxford might be the slower crew off the start looking at the playbook, but right now they look like they might have got a bow ball ahead.
Well, the choice was taken by Oxford, as it was in the women's race, to choose the Surrey side. They won the toss. James Doran there, puffing out his cheeks. Huge frame, 6'7" of him. And he's been in 2 losing boats. He does not want to lose again. Cambridge perhaps with the very slightest advantage here.
So
Oxford's bow just edging ahead, in fact, but Cambridge have this initial Middlesex bend.
Yeah, so Cambridge here, now that they're being warned, you've got to be really careful. On the inside of the bend, you can actually take that opportunity to use the bend a little bit. Oxford have to make sure they don't end up going wide here and give Cambridge too far on the racecourse.
Cambridge, move!
Oh, the loud voice of Sarah Winkles.
Don't follow him! Cambridge, move!
You better move. And Cambridge do move now. Ollie Boyne puts in a little tug on the rudder wires. That's brake, though, just a fraction of brake, but they do move sharply to the side. And it's difficult to tell on that angle, but so far, from the opening moments of this race, it seems to be as close as we thought it might be.
Yeah, this is where we talk about being gladiatorial. They're coming through that first couple of minutes, and it's neck and neck.
You've gone out the start, you've had the rate high, you're taking more strokes per minute, and this is the bit now where you have to keep pushing into that first minute, into that second minute, to really get onto a big, strong rhythm that's going to take you through the middle part of the race. We saw Cambridge being warned there, but Oxford again trying to move in as Cambridge are being warned, just creeping into their water as well.
And again, worth reminding that the Middlesex bend, the bend which favours Cambridge initially, is worth about a quarter of a length, which is what Cambridge have at the moment, but still a little bit of that bend to play out. So Cambridge have made the slightly brighter start here.
Aggressive coxing right overhead there. You can see the crews almost point towards each other. Both coxers do not want to give an inch, do they, Zoe?
No, and Cambridge have actually used that bend really, really well, both from the rowers' perspective and the coxswain's perspective. They have played it out well, and actually I do think that Oxford, from a coxing point of view, they've done a good job to stay there, but Oxford now have to make sure that they don't let Cambridge slip at this early part of the race.
And again, coming into this race, you think of the talent within this Oxford crew, but we've reminded you that sometimes in recent years, Cambridge have been greater than the sum of their parts. At the moment, about half, two-thirds of a length, but Cambridge looking strong so far. Oxford have to maintain contact because then they'll have the big Surrey bend in their favour.
I think we knew that this race was going to be close. Even from the very, very beginning of the season, both universities sent crews to race at the head of the Charles in Boston. They're about 8 seconds apart. Cambridge won, but 8 seconds over a really long course. You know, it could have gone either way. And now you can see that Oxford are starting to sneak back.
And they're getting close to each other again, so Sarah Winkles makes her voice heard once more, the umpire, and they do start to just creep apart. Right, let's go down to that launch where Sarah Winkles is and hear from Jasper Parish, winning Cambridge men's cox a couple of years ago. What are you seeing, Jasper?
Wow, what a race we've got in our hands. I can't quite tell whether Cambridge have gone out the slightly harder sort of first 5 or 6 minutes to get ahead and control the race, or if they just have the faster base pace and they're going to keep trucking away from Oxford. What a race right now. Dow de Graaf is setting up a fantastic rhythm in the Cambridge boat. The Oxford crew look relaxed, they look calm, they look like they know what they're doing. T-Mac is of a fantastic calibre, and he's going to keep sort of bringing that boat to new levels as they fight back around the Surrey bend.
Yeah, thanks, Jasper. T-Mac, Tom McIntosh in the Oxford 6 seat, the New Zealander, the president. No previous boat race experience, but one of the most decorated oarsmen in the race, an Olympic champion from the Tokyo Olympics in the New Zealand 8, and he sits there with a red-rimmed sunglasses in the Oxford 6 seat and tries to drive on. You see a little glance across from Nico Cole, the Italian in the stroke seat for Oxford, trying to see where Cambridge are, and just in his peripheral vision, he might have been able to see something, but Cambridge are pulling clear.
Yes, Oxford have got to keep their hand in the fire here. They've got to keep those watts coming down, and they've got to keep the pressure on. You do not want Oxford, they do not want Cambridge to move away any more than this right now.
I think this is an awkward position again to be in. You can see that the puddles that are made by Cambridge's oars on the side that Oxford are on are coming right under the shell, under the main boat in Oxford, and that is really, really disruptive. It feels incredibly uncomfortable to row on that. So you have to make sure that you are sort of leaning into that disruption and discomfort, keeping your rhythm and not allowing that to affect you too much.
Yeah, it's like rowing in a washing machine almost when you're that crew behind. It is not nice, it's swirly, it's pulling you around. You can see how uncomfortable it's making the dark blues here.
Yeah, the board is pitching and yawing, and Cambridge have put in such an impressive opening. Well, what, not quite 2 miles, just short of that as they go under Hammersmith Bridge, and once more the voice of Sarah Winkles is heard. She's having a lot of work to do, but look at that gap that Cambridge have opened up. So Oxford do have the Surrey bend, but getting clear now, Cambridge. Not quite clear enough that they could creep across there, but it's becoming a decisive margin there. Have they given up too much energy too early on, though?
I think that's what we're going to see next. This wasn't what we were expecting in this race. We were expecting these crews to be really alongside each other here, and as I was expecting, as the favour turns to Oxford, they would be getting back out, their bows out in front potentially, but Cambridge have really, really controlled this. Oxford are sneaking back a little bit, they are closing the gap, but there's not much in it.
Stats though, Hammersmith Bridge, between 80 and 85% of the time, the boat which leads at Hammersmith Bridge wins this race. So Oxford are going to have to do it against the odds, but they have the calibre of oarsmen in there to do so. But that's still a big lead that Cambridge have.
That is so hard to be behind and not see your opposition. You're in so much pain at this part of the race. You're almost going to tell yourself, we can do this still. And that's what the cox is going to be screaming at them now. You want Tobias to be shouting at these guys and telling them to stay in the race.
Because it's not just about the calibre of the athletes. Ultimately, it's about the tenacity of the crew. And that's what we're seeing here from Cambridge.
Let's hear the sound of the Cambridge boat.
To the blue doors now. Just confidence. Round the bend. There. Yeah, now we're coming into our own, boys.
It's the beat like a drum of the oars that carries Cambridge on, and still holding Oxford at that distance there. It's not growing any yet, but now they round into Chiswick Reach, and you see things will start to get just a little bit more lively on the water as well, which is another factor to take into consideration. A few drops of rain coming down as the skies darken. But Oxford, this is going to have to be some comfort behind if they're to win this one.
Yeah, you heard Ollie Boyne there talk about the blue doors. That's our halfway marker, so they're into the second half of the race. They've actually survived a big part of Oxford's advantage, still out ahead. The water is now going to start getting a little bit rougher, and that's the thing about the boat race. It's not just the other crew, the river is there as well. The river, it offers no applause. It only offers distractions, it offers resistance, and you have to learn how to tame the tideway if you're going to win the boat race.
We weren't expecting this. We knew how good Cambridge would be, but we thought that Oxford might be a fraction better just because of the quality of international athletes they've got in there. But Cambridge do it time and time again, and look how choppy it's getting now.
And I think that's what Rob Baker does really well. He adapts his style based on the athletes he has, not just the style of the rowing, but also the training. So this year, for example, he knew that he had more experienced athletes, so he increased the training volume. He upped the mileage. He used what he had, and I think we don't know if that's something that, you know, maybe Oxford have yet to learn with two relatively new coaches here.
It talks about the length of the stroke at Cambridge. Well, that's what they look for. Length and quality of the finish as we look down on these giant 8-winged creatures beating their way down the Thames. And look at that gap between the light blues of Cambridge, the dark blues of Oxford, and the water which sprays across them now. They're able to look. They're able to get that lift from seeing the lead they have.
It's one of the joys of rowing. If you're winning, what a seat to be in. You can see the crews behind you, or in this case, the crew. The one crew, this is one-on-one, and they can enjoy this. It's windy. Look at these conditions. That is not comfortable. That's hard to row in. Don't get anyone wrong. This is tough for these strong guys, and they've got to stick their oars in those water and leave their hull along still. Whereas Cambridge, loose, relaxed, powerful.
I think the thing that we're seeing here now as well is that wind going against the stream, so it's hitting the water, it's really bouncing those waves up. You can see it now, this shot here, those ripples on the water make it really, really challenging to row through.
Well, that gap is lifting. Now, the course record, 1998, what a huge crew that was for Cambridge, 9:56. So a fraction behind that. Course records, you take them with a pinch of salt because it's all down to the conditions, really, and how fast that stream is in behind you. Of course, quality of the crews as well, but it's never really about winning time, it's about winning margin.
You have to believe.
You'd be pretty pleased, though, if you were in that 98 crew still.
We're going to move right through them, boys. Show me the grittiest performance. Let's go. Sit-all press.
Here, Tobias Bernard, you have to believe we're going to go through them again. The kidology of being a cox, because look at that gap.
He seemed very relaxed there. I'd want someone to scream at me a bit more if I was down this many lengths in the boat race.
That's one of the hardest things about coxing, is when you are down, to think, what am I going to say to keep inspiring these guys but not to panic them, because that's the thing, you need to stay relaxed to row your best, but you need to impress.
Loose out front, press down low. Loose out front, press down low.
So
technique.
Exactly. Ollie's keeping it very simple. He's focusing on technique. At this point, you know you've got enough to win the race. Essentially, what you need to do now is not put a foot wrong. You need to make sure you don't make any mistakes.
Well, from a light blue point of view, from the Cambridge viewpoint, it looks very good indeed. A former Cambridge cox, once again, Jasper Parish.
Well, I am utterly stunned by this race. I did not see this margin coming up at all. Fantastic rhythm from the Cambridge crew. They just seem to keep rowing away and away and away, and I just think, you know, how proud I am to have rowed for a club. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think this will complete a clean sweep of all 4 open weight races and also the lightweight races. So Cambridge on absolute top form here, top form.
We just saw, as we looked at the close-up of the Oxford crew, the utter pain on the face of Felix Rawlinson in the 3 seat. And look at this Cambridge crew. So Dowie de Graaf, Ollie Boyne-Coxing, Dowie de Graaf in the stroke seat. Again, we talk about him being a talent. And then Luca Ferraro, James Robson, George Bourne, the wonderful single sculler, Gabriel Maher, the Czech international, Luc Beaver, Noam Moueli, the French athlete in the 2 seat, and then Simon Hatcher, the American. They have come together and gelled. I mean, that is just waiting on that shot there. This is going to be a crushing victory, and I use that in every sense. Crushing victory for Cambridge, because Oxford came into this firmly believing they could win this, and a lot of people said, yes, it's going to be close, but they perhaps gave Oxford the slight edge. Well, again, look at that gap.
Cambridge made that decisive move really quite early, and I wonder if Oxford were too complacent. Did they think they've done a bit too much? You know, we're going to have our bend now. And actually, by the time it got to their bend, by the time it got to Oxford's advantage, Cambridge were already ahead, and they lost any advantage they would get from having the move on their side.
Keep getting these shots of Cambridge just on a river of their own at the moment, and Ollie Boyne, he doesn't need to tell his crew how far clear they are, because they know, and this will just feed them. Again, everybody's suffering at this stage in the race, but again, the suffering is less when you know that you're heading for victory.
If you're watching this, these athletes are putting themselves really into the red. You know, their heart rate's at maximum, their lungs are burning, their legs are absolutely on fire. But the Cambridge crew look more relaxed. They look more at ease in this choppy water than the slightly rougher style of the Oxford crew. So it's really paying off for Cambridge.
It's funny when you look at the faces of, look at Nico Cole in the stroke seat there for Oxford, and behind him Nick Rusher, Tom McIntosh. Look at Felix Rawlinson back in the 3 seat there. It just looks like horrible graph for Oxford, and I'd say they're not getting closer, they're actually probably getting further away. Cambridge are putting on an absolute exhibition here of rowing, of coming together as a crew, not individuals.
You see there, actually, Oxford looked like they'd almost crossed over onto the other station. They were trying to take the inside line a bit, but it's not enough. It's too late to make any difference now. It's going to be the only thing that's going to cause a problem now is a sort of unforced error by Cambridge to let Oxford back in.
Tortuous work for Oxford. They won't know, but they might be able to sense how far behind they are. I have to keep believing and keep pushing, but there we are, a 1 crew race in the 170th men's boat race, and that would be the most painful thing to hear. This, nobody saw this margin of victory coming.
And not only the margin of victory, but how quickly it happened. You know, Cambridge really established that lead early and just didn't give Oxford a look in.
You know, there's a bit of there's always fierce rivalry between the 2 universities. There's been a bit of more friction this year, a bit of animosity even, because of what's going on in terms of the arguments over selection eligibility. And Cambridge have responded in the very best way, and the depth of squad they have. You know, thinking about the huge depth of the squad this year. 4 previous Blues had to settle for seats in Goldie in the reserve boat. So we talk about the quality of the Oxford crew, but there's obvious quality in the Cambridge boat as well.
Yeah, we can see it. The way they're rowing, it looks loose. Rowing is a really horizontal sport. What I mean by that, you shouldn't really lift your shoulders or bring it into the neck. And you can see it by looking at the light blues. The dark blues, it looks like it's painful work.
Yeah, there are grimaces on the Cambridge faces as well, but they could easily be read as smiles, and they will soon be legitimate grins across their faces, because the winning post waits, and it waits only for Cambridge. The margin has just grown and grown. I thought that Oxford would come back in the second half of this race, but quite the reverse. Cambridge have got further and further clear. This is going to be a huge margin of victory. It's going to be another victory. Oxford did win in 2022, which was a post-Olympic year, but in this post-Olympic year, the Thames belongs to the light blues again. A huge victory, a dominant victory, an unexpected victory perhaps, but what a victory. And now the celebrations begin in earnest, because Oxford are trailing in so far behind. It is not just a victory, it's an absolute demonstration of rowing the tideway. And only now the dark blues come across, rather beaten and broken by this race. An astonishing race, astonishing performance by these men.
I'm surprised by how that played out. I think it was disappointing from the Oxford point of view. Not a dissimilar result to the women, but I felt like the women's crew kind of probably slightly outperformed themselves, the Oxford women, whereas this men's crew, I think, you know, we did expect a very close race and a potential Oxford turnover here. So really surprising to see how it came out.
But what a performance by Cambridge. We've seen all year, they had the form ahead of the Charles at the start of the year. They were always in the races, looked like they were a fast crew. We didn't really see that much of Oxford through the year. And actually, start line today, that bit of that delay, probably got a little bit colder than they want to. They did everything right in this race.
I mean, this will be the biggest victory since... I'm trying to guess how big that victory would have been there if you were to estimate. But what, Oxford won by 6.5 lengths in 2015. Oxford in 2014 by 11 lengths, but that was when Luke Juckett in the Cambridge boat caught a crab and was almost thrown out of his seat. So this has been a clean victory. No incidents, just emphatic, decisive. So impressive.
You could see the way that Cambridge were rowing. You look at them, and what you really want to see in a great rowing boat is that all the oars are really moving together, and you saw it, you know, the green of those oars, you could see them all swinging back and forth as one. Like Jess said, they looked really relaxed. It was great rowing.
Well, it's 8 in a row for the Cambridge women, it's 3 in a row for the Cambridge men. Again, the tide runs light blue.
And pictures there of the Cambridge victorious 8 and Rosa Millard alongside me. It's hard to really pick a point of huge drama like with the women's race. It wasn't a dramatic race, but perhaps a little surprising in the facts of the manner of the victory there for the Cambridge men.
Yeah, that was an absolutely astounding victory. I can't even remember, like, I don't think the margin has been that big for many, many years. And the crews were equally stacked. I mean, yeah, that is their dream race. Get up, get out, win. Like, simple as.
I can see them just coming in towards the banks. They'll come off. We'll hear interviews with them, with the Oxford crew as well. But just take us back to those moments, what it is like crossing the line and knowing you've won the boat race.
I think the biggest feeling is relief. There's so much pressure. So when you come across the line first, it's just the best feeling because you know that you've done everything you absolutely can. And fortunately, it was the right result, and it's the right result for Cambridge today. You can see now the masses of people in the background waiting for that men's blue boat to come in. I think that really sums up Cambridge University Boat Club, to be honest. Big culture club. They absolutely love the CUBC. The alumni love it, the rowers love it.
Because I guess now we've got to really try and assess why Cambridge are so dominant. So that is a win in the men's and women's boat races, wins in the reserve races, wins in the lightweight races. It's complete and utter domination.
It really is. It's clean sweep. Yeah, it's hard. We were chatting earlier during the race, trying to discuss what do Cambridge do better. And as you can see here, I really think that something that Cambridge do well is culture. Like everyone is mates. Like you can see Goldie there, Blondie there, Blue Boat there, like meeting the men's Blue Boat. Everyone is there supporting each other.
Fantastic scenes as they're pretty much grappled out of the boat. And I think we should give a word of congratulations to Ollie Boyne, the cox almost last to leave the boat there. Rosa, he's rowed in 3 boat races, 22, 23, 24, all in the Goldie crew, so the reserve crew. He finally gets to step up, and today he wins the boat race with Cambridge.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's the one that feels the best for the Cambridge people, because yeah, it's been a long time coming. When he was president in 2023, he was in Goldie, and I think that hurt. So it's really, really fantastic to see him here winning today. And I mean, he's not the leader. Luca is the president, but he kind of always will be one of the leaders of CUBC. And yeah, it's just so fantastic. These images bring back such good memories of the finish line. I mean, there really is nothing like your teammates pulling you in, hugging you, covering you in champagne, tears, everything happens. It's just so fantastic.
And yet the classic image of sport as we panned out towards that higher up shot, the jubilation on the left and the utter heartbreak on the right, and the losing crew from Oxford coming in and having to see those celebrations next to you, knowing you've been through exactly the same training and hours and hard work, for it to not pay off. What do you think went wrong for Oxford men today?
It's really hard to say. I don't know if anything actually did go wrong, because they also looked fantastic. Yeah, nothing popped out of going wrong. Maybe it's just an obvious difference in base pace, but it's kind of hard to pin that down to anything because they train the same amounts, they do the same things. It's just rowing, so it's really difficult to pin down the differences.
And perhaps the start was something identified by our commentary team in terms of Cambridge just really nailing it. But actually that is something that I think maybe could have been levied against Oxford. Previously, they were rowing not too long ago in the Netherlands, weren't they? And that was something that was identified as maybe a weaker start. There was a lot of waiting around as well, wasn't there? The delays with the debris in the water. How much impact could that have had?
I think that just gives time for the nerves to build and for the voices in your head to sort of... Well, I think Cambridge probably handled it better because they're silencing the voices that are just talking at you whilst you're waiting on the start line for, I think, it would have been about 20 minutes all in all, and getting a bit cold. And yeah, Cambridge came on top, so they probably handled it better.
We can see tears now flowing.
So many tears.
I saw previous alumni as well, the likes of Ollie Wynne-Griffith there, silver medalist at the Olympics in the men's pair last year. And I mean, you could probably identify absolutely everyone in that shot, Rosa.
Yeah, I think it's important to say there are some people in this picture that are the ineligible students that weren't eligible to race, and you can see them absolutely sobbing. You don't really know what the tears are for. Well, definitely there'll be happiness for the team, but also there'll be a part of them that is very sad that they weren't part of this, but at the CUBC they always will be.
We talk about bitter rivalries, don't we, between Cambridge and Oxford, but that has really taken the level up this year. This row over ineligibility, it discounted the likes of the women's president, Lucy Havard, couldn't be part of it. We saw Matt Hayward was part of the Cambridge setup. He wasn't there racing, another British athlete. It's going to be interesting as we see them shaking hands now. Of course, a huge sign of the boat race was, respect between the two crews, but it's going to be interesting to see how these athletes will feel, the emotions today of not being involved.
Yeah, it must be really challenging, but I think hopefully at the dinner tonight they'll all be able to celebrate, and in the next few weeks it will just ease off and the tide will settle and everything will go back to being a bit more normal.
Well, what a day it's been for Cambridge. Why don't we hear from some of their winning men's crew then? An interview with Rishi Prasad, with Luca Ferrara, the president, and George Bourne, part of that winning crew.
Alongside me, Luca, I'll start with you first of all, just to sum up your emotions after that magnificent performance.
I mean, I can't. It's an indescribable feeling, crossing the line ahead after so many months of work, really hard graft, and the guys put in so much. I asked a lot from them this year as president. They bloody delivered. I mean, Jesus, it's just the ultimate payoff, really.
Early part of the race, George, it looked as if it was going to be tight and close, as a lot of people predicted, but when you started to develop that significant advantage, did it cross your minds just what you were doing?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say well done to Oxford. Thank you for the race, that was great, and there have been fierce competitors, so yeah, it was no doubt it was going to be close there off the start. I think we just had such a nice press as we came past the Fulham Football Club, and we were really relaxed, we were really calm, our cox was doing a great job. Luca and Dower up in the stern setting a rhythm, and you feel yourself start to move away, and it's the best feeling in the world. So yeah, it was awesome.
Say best feeling in the world. You touched on it, Luca. The amount of work that goes into this, and we repeat it every year, that this is such a release of all that effort, tension, build-up, etc. It must be something that's very hard to describe to people at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you start the season, it's the start of September that we come together as a group and start getting to work, and all of those months you're just thinking about this one day, this one moment, and it really is like one or two moments in these races. Obviously it's about being the faster boat, but it really comes down to those one or two crunch points in the race where you really have to just grab it and not let go, and I think the guys did a really great job at that today. Just so proud of everyone.
When you hit the line, George, what goes through your mind?
Yeah, I feel like Andy Murray when he just won Wimbledon. Honestly, I know often this sport's like on a slightly different scale to that sort of thing, but we put in similar work and we have the same bonds with our teammates, and for us this is our Wimbledon final, our Champions League, so yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. It's like a taste of that, and it's awesome.
Everyone has their story. I mean, you narrowly missed out on qualification for Paris. I mean, does a moment like this make up for it? Is it something completely different?
Yeah, I tell you, look, if I do anything else in my career and it feels as good as this, then it's gone really well. So this has been awesome, and yeah, what a great time to spend it with these guys, and a way to continue the love of the sport.
Yeah, not just the 9 guys in the boat, but the whole team. I mean, it's been a great weekend for Cambridge. I mean, something really special is happening out of our boathouse. I'm just so proud of all of the team. You know, all 6 boats that race this weekend, the spares, all the coaches, everyone else that puts the work in. It's just such a great place to be.
Well, enjoy every moment of the celebrations. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
George Bourne and President Luca Ferraro talking to Rishi Prasad there after winning the 170th men's boat race. I'd quite like to see George Bourne play Wimbledon, take on Andy Murray.
That'd be class, that'd be class.
But an interesting point made right at the end there, that it is not just about the rowers, is it? It's about the entire support staff, the coaches, the spares as well, the reserves, those people ready to jump in at any moment and pushing each other constantly.
I think the spares actually have the most vital role in the whole club. They're the ones that really set the culture. They're the ones that set the tone. Without them, there is no CUBC. Like, they really, or OUBC for that matter, they push everyone else up. They make everyone else better. And I think something that Cambridge do really fantastically, and I'm sure they do in the Oxford side as well, is treat the spares really well. Like, at Cambridge, there's a big culture with the spares. Like, you've got to look after them, because otherwise you've got no culture. And I mean, this year's been a bit different with the ineligible students, but they've been brought in just as much. At the end of the women's race, Molly and Kate, 2 of the PGCE students, had a picture with the rest of the blue boat. Like, they are very much part of that culture. They got the necklaces that all the blue boat got as well. They're all part of a family, and just because a rule has said that they're not allowed doesn't make them feel any less part of it.
And actually, talking about some of the stories within the Cambridge men's crew of just missing out and finally having victory today, George Bourne, a really good example there, who we heard being interviewed. Rishi put that question to him about just missing out on the Olympics last year. He was going to go in the single scull. But James Robson sitting in front of him in the 6th seat for Cambridge today. I think a really great story of resilience. Was in Paris last summer with the GB team, but was the spare, couldn't race, and talked about really, you know, being so close and yet so far. What a day like this for him to potentially help him kick on in the next Olympiad as well.
I think this is such a good experience. It's such a fantastic thing to do, and in that post-Olympic year, it's not just a year filler. It's an opportunity to become part of something much, much bigger. I mean, like James Robson, he's an excellent rower. I actually don't think we've spoken about him enough, because he is of fantastic calibre. Spare pair at the Olympics, that is quite something. And he'll know the importance of spares and the importance of the reserves in creating culture and making everyone else better. You see now Luca embracing Tom Ford, someone else. He's an Olympic gold medalist, ineligible for the boat race, but again has been crucial in building the CUBC culture.
Well, let's turn the focus on Oxford then for the next few moments. Losing to Cambridge very convincingly. They had so many big names being brought into the crew this year, including the club president Tom McIntosh of New Zealand, an Olympic champion himself. Let's hear from some of them then with Rishi Prasad after the race.
Yeah, Will O'Connell and Tom McIntosh alongside me. Tom, I'm going to start with you. It's obviously, these interviews are always the most awkward ones to do, because you've worked so hard, but the race hasn't gone the way you would have wanted. What emotions do you feel at the end of it?
Yeah, so today didn't go our way, but to be honest, I don't really feel like we've lost. I'm still very proud of all the effort that our men and women have put into this club. Like I said earlier, a lot of our members still inspire me a lot, and the men in our boat have come a long way since the start of the season. Some with very steep learning curves, but the effort, commitment, and intensity that they've brought to the training has made it a real privilege to work with them. So I'll commend Cambridge on their effort. They outdid us today, and full credit to them. But like I said earlier, I don't feel like we've lost today. I'm still proud to be from Oxford. I'm still proud to wear dark blue, and I'm very proud of the men in our boat.
Terrific sentiment. Will, if you could just give us a little insight into what it was like as the race unfolded in the boat.
Yeah, look, I actually thought we got out to a good start and we settled onto a good rhythm, which is what we really hoped to do. I think coming around that Fulham bend, Cambridge really made use of their advantage, which is credit to them. They're a fast crew. And I think as we came through Hammersmith, we were definitely still in and coming to our bend, but probably coming into that headwind and a bit of the rough water, they just managed to steady on and steady through. And that's how these races go. Crews get up, and then they can sort of steer the course they like. So I still think, you know, we came out strong and we really did put down our best effort today. I think the boys went as hard as they could. Cambridge just got the better of us today.
Chatting to the crews earlier, one of the things that people talk about as one of the great positives from this is just the relationships, the people that you meet along the way. Is that the most important thing at the end of the day?
I think so. And look, I've been blessed to be part of a lot of different races, some successes and some tough races as well. But the beauty of this sport is the relationships that you build, the people you meet, and those, in my mind, last longer than the results. So, look, it didn't go away today, and it's a little bit hard, but like I said, it's still a pleasure working with these men and women from Oxford, and I think the network and the relationships that you build are just as important as the results themselves.
Well, we really appreciate you coming to talk to us. Thank you so much.
No worries, our pleasure. See ya.
Tom McIntosh alongside William O'Connell speaking to Rishi Prasad. We're going to have the medal ceremonies in just a moment, but I thought quite interesting there how positive Tom McIntosh was. He says it doesn't feel like a loss today for us.
Well, I think he's probably the most experienced rower in the men's side today, and yeah, I thought that was really good words. I thought he put it absolutely in such a class way, and he's right. Like the boat race isn't just about the race, it's about the build-up, it's about the team, it's about the culture, and it's about the family that you're joining into. And on the OUBC side, huge culture, like huge alumni culture. So yeah, I thought everything he said, he put it very well.
And I guess the question is, what next for Oxford? It's obviously back to the drawing board. We've got Mark Fangenhall in charge now. It's quite a sort of chastening beginning to his boat race experience in charge of the men. I wonder what they do recruitment-wise now and who they will be targeting.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see. I think that it takes time to build momentum. It's only Mark's first year, it's Alan's second year. I think that it will take time for Oxford to build this momentum, but I really do think that they'll do it because, I mean, it won't continue like this. As much as it pains me as a Cambridge alumni, it won't continue on this winning streak. Oxford will build the momentum, and I hope they do for the good of the sport.
You can see how much the tide has come up towards Mortlake Boat Club there. But we are going to turn our attention now to the medal ceremonies. The women's boat race medal ceremony up first this afternoon. A big victory once again for Cambridge over Oxford. Their 8th in a row.
The umpire of the women's boat race onto the podium.
You can see all the Cambridge fans and alumni gathering there, cheering on. We're just getting introduced now to Sir Matthew Pinsent umpiring what was such a dramatic race in the end, Rosa.
Yeah, crikey, I'm sure he's glad to be on the other side of it. That was something else. Had some head and hands moments for sure, some gasping. I'd just hate to be Paddy Ryan on the launch, or Alan French for that matter. No coach wants to see that. But I thought Matthew did a fantastic job, like making that decision quickly, so they've just not even got time to think about it. They're just going again. Yeah, I thought he did well.
Now let's welcome the winners onto the podium. Cambridge University Boat Club, Katie Hempson, Gemma King, Carousel, Annie Wertheimer, Sophia Hahn, Claire Collins, Tash Morris, Samantha Morton, Jack Nicholas, and the Cambridge women's coach, Paddy Ryan, and the Cambridge women's president, Lucy Havard. Can we ask the President, Lucy Havard, to step forward to receive the trophy presented by the President of Chanel Watches and Fine Jewellery, Frédéric Grangy.
And so the celebrations begin.
Lucy Havard, club president, who we should just remind people wasn't rowing today, but she is such an important figure, Rosa, in amongst this. What is the role of the president?
Well, the role of the president is to lead, set an example, to really just build the culture, to be honest. And I think Lucy has done a fantastic job of that. She's had the most difficult role of the president I've ever seen. She herself was ineligible for the race, but she raced in the spare pair always had a smile on her face. Whenever I saw her, she was always cheerful. I've known her for 3 years and she's been absolutely nothing but brilliant. She's absolutely fantastic.
And what a moment for this crew. Take us back to your day on 2023. How good is this?
It feels amazing. It's just, again, it's such a relief. Like, it's such a relief. Nothing better. And I'm so pleased to see Lucy up there lifting that trophy, to be honest. So nice to see.
Yeah, Katie Hempson, Gemma King, Carousel, Annie Wertheimer, Sophia Hahn, Claire Collins, Tash Morris, and Sammy Morton as well. And Jack Nicholas, the Cox on the far left.
What a guy, what a guy.
Getting sprayed, yeah, he said it's all part of racing today. It was all a bit dramatic, a clash of blades, a crab as well for Cambridge. Kind of everything that could go wrong went wrong, and yet they were so calm and composed.
They were. I think that's, to be honest, we said before, the coxing was not as experienced as the rowing in the women's race, but I think that Jack handled it fantastically. You saw how calm he was in the interview after. He's a pretty chill guy. I think he was probably very relaxed in the moment. He just kind of thought, oh, this is happening, this is just like training. And that is what it's like. That's what Cara said in her interview. They practice for this, so for them it's just like any training session.
And sometimes the naivety of inexperience can be some of the best, can't it?
Yeah, such a good moment. So now they'll just be getting ready for the dinner, to be honest, getting changed. I mean, to be honest, the moment in the changing room after the race is also fantastic because you're all sort of in there together, music playing in the showers, like, yeah, having a good old party.
And no training tomorrow either.
Yeah, I know. So they'll have a good 2 weeks off before they start building into Henley, into their various projects. So, yeah, I wonder what they'll do in the summer. Introduction of the Bridge Challenge Plate on the women's side, which is a new event, a new 8s event at Henley Royal Regatta. I think, yeah, that should be really good. And I'd be surprised to see Cambridge, if Cambridge weren't in there.
So we've mentioned a few times how dramatic the women's race was. I think we can go back and have a little look at how it all unfolded. It feels like a lifetime ago now,
really
doesn't it?
Really
Look at the sky back then, blue in the sky. It's kind of dark and stormy now, but we had pretty good conditions, Rosa, off the start. But as we'll see, the crew's just getting closer and closer together.
Yeah, right now, it's far away. Oh, and all of a sudden they're together. Oh, it's too much. It's pulse-raising things. You're sort of thinking, will it happen, won't it happen? And then all of a sudden, bam.
Yeah, you can see on the right-hand side, that was Sophia Hahn getting that boat-stopping crab.
And you see Annie behind her actually was helping her because it's really difficult to get it back from around. But you see Annie was shoving the blade down, pushing it in front of her. And I thought they handled that pretty well.
So it led to a restart in the race, the first one we've had since 2012. You might remember that controversial day when we had a spectator enter the water. So you don't see that very often. So completely unprecedented moment for these crews to have to deal with.
Yeah, this is a historic race in of itself. I think it might even be, it's definitely the first reset since the women are on the tideway. It might even be the first reset of all time. But Cambridge, it's just so hard to deny them. Look at them. I think Oxford as well. I think Oxford actually rowing better, but Cambridge just, maybe it's just manpower, maybe it's determination. I don't know. They just got away really well.
What did you prefer about the Oxford stroke then in terms of what you're seeing here?
I think that the Oxford, you can see their bodies are moving a lot more in time and the blade work is a lot closer to the water. And you take a look at the stern of the boat, which is the back towards where the cox sits. I think Oxford do it well because it just runs really smoothly, whereas Cambridge's isn't as smooth. And that's nothing to do with the power, it's just to do with the way that they're applying it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's whoever crosses the line first.
And that was Cambridge crossing the line at Mortlake to take their 8th victory in a row over Oxford. And it was the same story for the men. And here they are in their medal ceremony at Mortlake and Alpha Boat Club, just past Chiswick Bridge, just beyond the finish line. And we'll see the crew coming up to claim their reward and smiles all round.
Yeah, now, this is Luca's second time on the podium. And now he's lifting the trophy as president. It's absolutely fantastic to see. Learnt to row at Lee Rowing Club, but really developed into a rower at Cambridge under the watchful eye of Rob Baker.
Who is there on the podium with them.
It's such a good moment, such a good moment.
George Bond said it was like winning the Champions League, and he lifted it in Champions League style, didn't he?
I think what we could see now is, in past years when there's been a clean sweep, Cambridge will come up to the podium, and hopefully we'll get to see that, because that's just another really special moment.
Might not be enough room for all of them.
Yeah.
Congratulations once
Poor
again.
Rob getting absolutely soaked with champagne, all in his eyes. It really stings when it goes in your eyes. That's something I remember.
Yeah, I've got my tiny violin out for you. And it was such a dominant performance for the Cambridge men. Straight off the start, they were on the Middlesex station, like the women, and just totally jumped the Oxford crew, who had a really good start. We heard Will O'Connell talking about that. They felt good, but Cambridge, it just felt like that rhythm came so naturally and so quickly in their race.
Yeah, I mean, Dow de Graaf, absolutely fantastic athlete. Watch the space. I mean, I'm sure he'll be pushing into that GB rowing team in the next few years, maybe LA 2028. He is absolutely fantastic. And you saw him and Luca setting it up in stern pair. A crew change, like an order change. That wasn't the original plan. But, I mean, Luca is well seasoned in the sterns. Yeah, you see Luca and Lucy together, the openweight presidents, joined by the openweight blue boats. And I'm sure we'll see Blondie and Goldie join them very soon.
And it's 10 years as well, I should mention, since the women began racing on the Tideway course. You yourself lucky enough to be part of this 10-year making of history. Obviously, we've had COVID disruptions in the middle, but it is significant what this has done for women's rowing and women's sport.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I heard a stat that the women's boat race was the most widely watched women's sport event in the whole world, which is absolutely mental, because for them it's just a race. It's just like a fixture against Oxford. Oh, so good.
Well, this is exactly what you said was going to happen. Genuinely struggling to fit everyone on the podium. But look at that, and just tells the tale of the entire day and the entire weekend. We had the lightweight races on the Saturday, reserve races taking place as well today, and everything painted in the light blue of Cambridge.
Yeah, and the spare pairs race earlier in the week, which was also victorious for Cambridge. Oh yeah, I mean, it's just so fantastic. I mean, yeah, a question we've asked each other a lot today is, what can Oxford do better? I mean, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. I think they'll still be building momentum and trying to recruit more people, but it's difficult to know, because they look fantastic, they had brilliant athletes, or maybe it is just this Cambridge culture. Look, they're pulling up their other teammates to come up to the podium with them. Not everyone is there. They want to make sure absolutely everyone who has had a role in the CUBC is there to have this moment and enjoy it, because everyone is so important to them.
Because it was a couple of years after Cambridge that Oxford united their boat house as well. So all the men and women rowing under the same name, the same facilities shared. There's a lot of camaraderie. We can see that right here replicated in the Cambridge setup too. Perhaps, is there a question we could ask about Oxford just being a couple of years behind in those terms?
You'd kind of hope that's the case, and that they're just building time as one club and gaining a bit of momentum. But Cambridge have transitioned into one club really seamlessly. The men's side are great. They were great when I was there. They continue to be great. And at the dinner, like, everyone sits on mixed tables. Yeah, it's so nice.
Is there a strange mix of emotions now you're on the podium, you've won, that you know in some ways this is actually the end?
Yeah.
Because there are some people who will leave, there are some people who may not make the boat again, there are some people who will want to take on different challenges. I don't want to be that bad guy, but maybe a slight tinge of sadness.
It's a very emotional moment. I mean, I haven't rowed in my blue boat since the race itself. So when you finish the race, you're so relieved that it's over and that you've got the result you want. But at the same time, it is sad, because it's like, oh, you're saying goodbye, you're closing the book and finishing the end of the book and coming to the end. But I mean, I guess we'll see what happens in Henley, like we said before. If Cambridge will do the Bridge Challenge Plate, and on the men's side, perhaps they'll do, I don't know, the Temple or the Ladies Plate. It'll be very interesting to see what they do for summer, because I mean, the Goldie crew came, I think, 7th ahead of the river, so they're really fantastic. The women's crew came 3rd ahead of the river, which is fantastic. So both of them have shown that not only are they victorious over Oxford, but on the wider national scene, they're really up there. So maybe they'll row together again in the summer, but it's not quite like today.
And we've mentioned that this is the first year of a new Olympic cycle leading into LA 2028. And there are certainly going to be several people stood right on that podium right now as we look at it, who will have ambitions of that as well, Olympic rowing. We've mentioned a couple of them already.
Yeah.
I wonder how, what we might see in terms of next year, who goes more to Caversham and trains there and, the like.
There are definitely lots of questions like that. So George Bourne and James Robson, Luca. Who knows what he's going to do next year? I don't think he even knows.
And some of the international athletes as well. You know, and we sort of saw in the Oxford boat with Taslo von Müller, who's going to link up with the German setup. We've got Nicholas Cole already 4th at the Olympics with Italy. It's kind of intriguing.
James Doran on GB Racing. He's unreal. Won the Grand Challenge Cup last year. He's really unreal. He'll be doing big things, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's exciting to see what's coming up. Well, Rosa, it's been a delight. We're about to leave everyone here. Just your final thoughts then as we zoom out across the Thames for a final time.
I'm just really happy. As a Cambridge alumni, it's kind of bittersweet. I'm so happy to see Cambridge come out on top. But I'm also it'll be good to see what Oxford do in the next few years.
Rosa Millard, has been so great to share your company.
Thanks, Katie.
Once again, the boat race, the Thames, painted light blue in 2025.